Chapter 4670. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven's eyes flickered with the flames of greed. A metallic life form could actually transform into a source-level armor and block his attack. This was simply unheard of. In his long life, he had never heard of such a thing. The metallic race of the top 10 races was simply trash compared to Wuxia. It was definitely not simple, extremely not simple. He wanted to take it for himself. Lu Ming, you can't run away. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven coldly shouted and continued to chase Lu Ming. The two of them chased and fled. Not long after, the distance between them closed again. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven stabbed out with his purple-gold spear again. This time, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven once again erupted with the power of origin. Hundreds of spear shadows whizzed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming still tried his best to block. The primitive style, all kinds of defensive ancient secret techniques, etc. Although these methods couldn't block the purple-robed Lord of Heaven's attack, they could at least weaken a part of the power, allowing Wuxia to take a part of the attack and lessen the impact. Just like before, the primitive style and defensive ancient secret techniques were penetrated. More than 10 spear shadows pierced Lu Ming's body and sent Lu Ming flying again. The powerful impact made Lu Ming's injuries worse. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and many of his bones were fractured. What a powerful force. It's too powerful. If this continues, even if Wuxia can block the attack, I will be killed by the impact. Lu Ming's mind raced as he tried to think of a countermeasure. However, his body didn't stop. He continued to use the force to charge forward. It's useless even if you hide in the armor. The impact alone can kill you. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven snorted and continued to chase. Not long after, Lu Ming suffered another attack and his injuries worsened. The main reason was that he didn't have time to heal. No matter how strong his vitality was or how fast his recovery was, he couldn't recover. Escape, I will definitely be able to escape. The geography of this continent is complicated and there are powerful surviving species of the Great Desolate Land. Perhaps, I can borrow the strength of those powerful surviving species of the Great Desolate Land to repel the other party? Lu Ming kept thinking. Right now, he could only think of one way, and that was to rely on the Great Desolate Ring and the powerful Great Desolate Ancient Species. For example, if he discovered a primordial beast at reciprocity, Lu Ming would directly charge into the primordial ring. After alarming the primordial beast, Lu Ming would immediately enter the primordial ring. That way, the Lord of Heaven would not dare to approach him. However, there were several risks in doing so. Firstly, when he charged towards the powerful primordial remnant species, he had to alarm them. If he did not alarm the Great Desolate Remnant, he would have entered the Great Desolate Ring. That purple-robed Lord of Heaven would have been able to get close and take away the Great Desolate Ring. Then he would have become a turtle in a jar. Secondly, if he alarmed the Great Desolate Remnant species, it would charge towards Lu Ming. Before Lu Ming could enter the Great Desolate Ring, he would be killed by the Great Desolate Remnant species. Thirdly, if he alarmed the Great Desolate Remnant species, Lu Ming would successfully enter the Great Desolate Ring and scare away the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. However, if the Great Desolate Remnant species discovered the Great Desolate Ring and put it away, he would be in trouble. He would not be able to escape and would only be able to remain in the Great Desolate Ring. Only by alarming the Great Desolate Remnant species would Lu Ming successfully enter the Great Desolate Ring and scare away the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. At the same time, the Great Desolate Remnant species would not discover Lu Ming. Only then would Lu Ming be able to escape successfully. With these 3 points of danger, Lu Ming became rather hesitant about whether he should do it or not. At a crucial moment, he still had to risk it. It was better than being killed by his opponent. After a while, Lu Ming was struck again, worsening his injuries. I'll risk it. I can't go on like this. I can't shake off the other party. Lu Ming finally made up his mind. He planned to find a strong Great Desolate Remnant species and risk it all. That is, suddenly, Lu Ming saw a huge crack in the ground in front of him. The crack was pitch black. Faint roars and screams came from within. It seemed like many Great Desolate Remnant species resided in there. I'll risk it. A ruthless look flashed in Lu Ming's eyes as he charged into that crack. The crack went straight down. The further down it went, the wider it became and the larger it became. There were many protruding rocks on both sides of the crack, as well as some caves. Suddenly, a figure charged out of one of the caves and lunged at Lu Ming. This was a huge lizard. Its entire body was green, and a scarlet strip of flesh protruded from its mouth. Then, it tried to wrap around Lu Ming. Just a fifth-level divine master. Lu Ming's heart thumped. He thrust out his spear and killed the lizard. His body did not stop as he continued to charge downward. Gaga! Creak, creak, creak. Screams came from the cliffs on both sides of the crack. Pairs of scarlet lights appeared in those pitch-black caves. Those were all eyes. Then one great desolate remnant species after another crawled out of those caves. There were lizards, toads, spiders. They were all poisonous insects. So many. The extreme light art. Lu Ming was alarmed. His body turned into a beam of light as he charged downward. Swish! Above, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven also chased down. Those lizards, spiders, and toads charged out of the caves and charged at Lu Ming and the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. Poisonous fumes of various colors filled the air, and the entire void was covered by this poisonous fumes. Lu Ming ignored these poisonous gases and attacks. In any case, Qiu was here to block these attacks. He only needed to charge down with all his strength. Scram! The purple-robed Lord of Heaven roared. Powerful energy surged out of his body. It was the power of heavenly punishment. The power of heavenly punishment turned into thousands of lightning bolts that covered the void and purified the poisonous gases. Those lizards, spiders, and toads were also struck by the lightning bolts. Some were directly killed, while others were heavily injured and fell. Although there were many poisonous insects, they were not very strong. The strongest was only at the 7th or 8th level of the Divine Master Realm. Naturally, they could not stop the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. However, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven's speed was slightly affected. Lu Ming took this opportunity to open up some distance. Kill! The purple-robed Lord of Heaven roared. His entire body was covered in the power of heavenly punishment, as if he was wearing armor of lightning. He became one with the purplish-gold battle spear and swooped down, charging toward Lu Ming in a domineering manner. Those poisonous bugs exploded one after another as he rushed past them. The crack was very deep. Lu Ming felt that he had charged down at least 10,000 li before finally reaching the end. When Lu Ming saw the scene below, he felt his scalp go numb and his hair stand on end. There was a pond below, and there was a pile of giant snakes in it. Yes, giant snakes. Each snake was more than 10 meters in diameter. There were not just one or two snakes, but a pile of at least a dozen of them. More than 10 giant snakes intertwined with each other, turning into a snake pile, looking incomparably terrifying. Most importantly, each of the giant snakes was emitting a terrifying aura. Peak God Lord. Lu Ming could tell that the cultivation level of each of these giant snakes had reached peak Almighty Master. Chapter 4671. Lu Ming's scalp went numb. He had fallen into a snake's nest. From the looks of it, these giant snakes should be in their breeding season, so they gathered together. Those giant snakes had already discovered Lu Ming. Several of them rose into the air, exposing their bodies that were more than 100 meters long. They opened their mouths wide and tried to swallow Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked down and saw several pitch-black abysses. Fight! Lu Ming gritted his teeth. Below was the snake's nest, and behind him was the purple Lord of Heaven. He had no way out. If he continued to hesitate, he would only die. With a thought, Lu Ming entered the ancient desolation ring. The ancient desolation ring continued to descend. It landed in the mouth of a giant snake and was swallowed into its stomach. How did this kid disappear? Did he enter the ring? Could it be that the ring has an internal space? The purple Lord of Heaven's mind raced. Only a treasure with an internal space could take him in, and one that could allow living creatures to live in. Such a treasure was extremely rare in the greater thousand world like the Chaos Universe. Lu Ming even had such a treasure. He had too many good things on him. At the thought of this, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven's eyes burned even more fervently. He did not slow down and wanted to kill the giant snake so that he could take control of the Chaos Ring. One of the giant snakes swept its tail at the purple Lord of Heaven like a bolt of lightning. The snake's tail was more powerful than a divine weapon. It directly pierced through the void and let out a terrifying roar. With a terrifying force, it kept pressing towards the purple Lord of Heaven. The purple Lord of Heaven waved his violet golden battle spear and swept it out, colliding with the snake's tail. Boom! With a loud bang, the purple Lord of Heaven's body shook violently. He couldn't help but retreat. His face turned pale and he almost vomited blood. What a strong power! It's even stronger than mine. The purple Lord of Heaven was a little shocked. Boom! 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 At this moment, several giant snakes made their moves. All of them lashed out with their tails towards the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven. Every single one of them exploded with an astonishing amount of power. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven's expression was grave. He used his movement technique to continuously dodge, but in the end, he was unable to completely dodge. He was swept by a snake tail, and the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven crashed into a wall, coughing up large amounts of blood. With just one strike, 9 of the Lord of Heaven's bones were broken. Then, a giant snake flew out like lightning, opening its mouth and biting towards the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven waved his hand, and a few balls flew into the giant snake's mouth. Then, they suddenly exploded, blowing up the giant snake's mouth. However, the giant snake didn't die. It just continued to scream and went completely crazy. The 2 fangs in its mouth flew out like 2 daggers at lightning speed. Although the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven did his best to dodge, he was still struck by one of the fangs. It left a deep wound on his body, almost tearing half of his body apart. Run, run, run. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven was terrified and frantically fled upwards. Fortunately, the giant snakes didn't chase after the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven when they saw that he had run far away. Instead, they fell down and continued to tangle with the other giant snakes. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven didn't dare to be careless, nor did he dare to stop. He continued to charge downwards until he reached the outside of the crack. Only then did he let out a long breath. Then his body trembled and he suddenly coughed up blood. Damn, those fangs are poisonous. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven roared. Previously, he had been struck by one of the giant snake's fangs. That fangs contained a deadly poison that had already spread throughout his body. He had to heal as quickly as possible. He casually laid down some alert formations around the crack and then sat down cross-legged. He took out several medicinal pills, swallowed them, and began to circulate his energy to expel the poison. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven spent 3 days to expel the poison from his body. His injuries were mostly healed. That brat Lu Ming still hasn't come out. Could it be that he's already dead? Not necessarily. He entered a treasure with a hidden space. He shouldn't die so easily. This crack is very dangerous, and I can't go alone. I should find someone else to go with me. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven thought to himself. He actually wanted to capture Lu Ming by himself and take all of Lu Ming's treasures for himself. However, it was clear that he was too weak. It was too dangerous for him to enter the crevice alone. He planned to go with Yi Qiuxian and the others. Immediately, the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven laid down some formations around the crack. These formations were surveillance formations. He could see them even from far away. This kind of formation was very simple and basic in the Eldritch universe. It was also very practical, so many people with higher cultivation would learn it easily. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven laid down surveillance formations around the crack mainly because he was afraid that Lu Ming would sneak away after he left. Then, the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven's figure flashed and left the place. How do I get out? Lu Ming frowned. He stayed in the Chaos Ring and sat cross-legged. He spread out his spirit sense and covered the surface of the Chaos Ring. He could observe the situation outside the Chaos Ring. It was obvious that the Chaos Ring was in the giant snake's stomach. At this moment, there was a green and disgusting liquid surging towards the Chaos Ring from all directions, wrapping the Chaos Ring within. This liquid was terrifyingly corrosive and poisonous. It was the giant snake's digestive fluid. It was extremely terrifying. No matter how powerful a creature was, once it was wrapped in this digestive fluid, it would be poisoned and slowly corroded. However, the Chaos Ring was not to be underestimated. It was one of the 4 great treasures of the Life Spirit Heavenly Court. Its material was indestructible and could not be corroded by this digestive fluid. Therefore, the Chaos Ring was completely fine. Lu Ming was not worried about this. What he was worried about was how to get out. Should he break open the giant snake's body and kill his way out? Obviously, that was not realistic. After he got out, he would probably be completely corroded by the digestive fluid. Should he release the War God's spear and make it expand rapidly to burst the giant snake's stomach? That was also impossible. This giant snake was a peak divine master. At this level, it was easy to change the size of its body. When the War God's spear expanded, the giant snake's body could also expand. It was a stupid method to make the snake's body explode by expanding its size. It might work at a lower level, but it was completely impossible at a higher level. Lu Ming had a headache. The only thing he could do now was to wait. Perhaps the Chaos Ring could be excreted along with the giant snake's excrement? Although this method was embarrassing and disgusting, there was no other way. After about half a day, Lu Ming could clearly feel that the giant snake was moving quickly. It should be done and had left the nest. After a few hours, the giant snake stopped. After a while, the giant snake started moving again. Just like that, a few days passed in the blink of an eye. The Chaos Ring was still in the giant snake's stomach. Chapter 4672. On this day, Lu Ming could clearly feel that the giant snake was violently shaking. Outside, there was a violent rumble and the giant snake's sharp cry. The giant snake is fighting. What is it fighting against? Could it be that the people from the heavenly palace have arrived? Lu Ming's heart sank. It had already been a few days. It wasn't surprising that the people from the heavenly palace had arrived. The battle didn't last for long. After a few minutes, Lu Ming sensed that the giant snake was no longer moving. Lu Ming's spiritual awareness covered the surface of the ancient desolation ring. He could feel that the surrounding digestive fluid had receded. The life force of the giant snake was also quickly draining away. The giant snake was dead. It was obvious that the giant snake had been killed. Lu Ming's heart also rose. He hoped that the people who had killed the giant snake weren't from the heavenly palace. Puchi. The giant snake's body was being cut open. Looking outside through the ancient desolation ring, he could see that the giant snake's stomach was also cut open. The light outside shone in. That's a desolation remnant. After seeing the situation outside, Lu Ming couldn't help but feel happy. The people who had killed the giant snake weren't from the heavenly palace, but several giant redbirds. These giant redbirds had long beaks and extremely sharp claws. At this moment, these giant birds were using their sharp claws to tear apart the giant snake's body. Small, small, small. Lu Ming controlled the ancient desolation ring and made it quickly shrink until it was as small as a speck of dust. He then attached it to a piece of the giant snake's bone. He didn't dare to act rashly. These giant birds were able to kill the giant snake in just a few minutes. This was enough to show their terrifying strength. Lu Ming couldn't even defeat the giant snake. If he acted rashly, he would be courting death. The giant birds were enjoying their meal to their heart's content. They didn't even notice the tiny ancient desolation ring. Soon, the giant snake was almost completely eaten. Only a few scraps were left. After the giant birds enjoyed their meal, they seemed to be satisfied. After chirping a few times, they spread their wings and flew away in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming let out a long breath. However, he didn't immediately come out of the ancient desolation ring. Instead, he controlled the ancient desolation ring to fly up and looked around with his spiritual awareness. This was a plain with a few hills in the distance. There were no other desolation remnants around. Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. With a thought, he flew out of the primitive ring. He condensed a wisp of flame and shrouded the primitive ring, removing the residual digestive fluid on the surface of the primitive ring. He then put the primitive ring into his sea of consciousness. I didn't expect there was an underground world under the crack. Lu Ming looked around. The surroundings were wide and boundless. The vegetation was lush and full of vitality. Apart from the dim lighting, it was no different from the outside of the crack. I don't know where I am now, and how far away I am from that crack. I wonder if the people from the heavenly palace have come after me? Lu Ming pondered. If the purple-robed Lord of Heaven was fine, Lu Ming guessed that the heavenly human race would most likely come after him. They wouldn't let him go so easily. A few days had passed. Perhaps the heavenly palace had already entered the crack. I can't go back to that crack. Maybe the heavenly palace is waiting for me there. Maybe there are other exits. Lu Ming pondered. He planned to leave this place first and look for other exits. But before leaving, Lu Ming waved his hands. Runes spread and several formations appeared around him. Similarly, this was a monitoring array formation. If the heavenly palace's people passed by here, they would be discovered by Lu Ming. After setting up the monitoring array, Lu Ming flew along the ground and disappeared from the place. Lu Ming randomly chose a direction and rushed forward. Every once in a while, Lu Ming would set up a few surveillance formations in some hidden corners. Very soon a day passed. This underground world was really vast. It also gave birth to many powerful primitive surviving beasts. Throughout the day, Lu Ming saw many surviving beasts of the untainted land. Of course, these primitive surviving beasts varied in strength. It was impossible for all of them to be as powerful as the giant snakes or the fiery red giant birds. There were primitive surviving beasts of all realms. Ordinary surviving species of the untainted land did not pose a threat to Lu Ming at all. He just had to avoid those powerful surviving species of the untainted land. Fortunately, Lu Ming did not encounter any primordial surviving beasts of the origin realm that day. At this moment, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven finally found Yi Qiuxian and the others outside the crack. "Young Master Qiuxian, how are the Heaven Destroyer and the others?" asked the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. "I killed one of them. The others escaped." Yi Qiuxian snorted coldly. He was extremely displeased. Originally, with their strength, they had the absolute upper hand. Even if they couldn't wipe out Lion and the others, they would definitely suffer heavy losses. However, due to his defeat in the battle against Lu Ming, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven left the battlefield to save him. This allowed the Heaven Destroyer to catch their breath. In the end, only one of them was killed. The others all escaped. This was equivalent to him indirectly helping the Heaven Destroyer. It would be strange if he wasn't happy. "Where's Lu Ming? Did you kill him?" Yi Qiuxian changed the topic and asked the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. "He managed to escape. That little brat has many treasures and is extremely crafty. He managed to escape to a dangerous place." The purple-robed Lord of Heaven explained in detail how Lu Ming escaped into the crack. Of course, he had made some slight changes in some parts. For example, he didn't mention that Lu Ming had a treasure that contained an internal space. He only said that Lu Ming rushed into the crack and he followed him in, only to be attacked by the giant snake. As for the metal life form being able to transform into a source-grade armor, he didn't want to say it. However, after thinking that Yi Qiuxian should know, he said it. He was a little selfish. He wanted to take all the treasures on Lu Ming. That Lu Ming has great luck. Even if there's a powerful remnant species in the crack, he won't die so easily. He's most likely still alive. Let's go and kill him in the crack. Yi Qiuxian said coldly. His killing intent towards Lu Ming was getting stronger and stronger. He must find a way to get rid of Lu Ming. I've set up a monitoring formation around the crack. I didn't see Lu Ming come out of the crack. He should still be inside. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven said. "Alright, lead the way. Let's go." Yi Qiuxian Dao. Yi Qiuxian immediately led the way toward the crack. Not long after, they arrived above the crack. "The last time I went down, I encountered a group of giant snakes. There were more than a dozen of them, and each of them had a cultivation of peak divine lord. They were very strong. I don't know if they're still there. You must be careful when you go down," the purple-robed Lord of Heaven said. "Gather together. If you find that you can't handle the danger, retreat quickly." Yi Qiuxian Dao. 8 peak divine lord experts immediately surrounded Yi Qiuxian and rushed down the crack. Soon, they were attacked by the lizards and spiders on both sides of the crack. Chapter 4673. However, the poisonous insects on both sides of the crack were unable to cause any harm to Yi Qiuxian and the others. They easily killed a large number of them and soon arrived at the bottom of the crack. Be careful, there are giant snakes down there. There are only 3 left. Don't worry, kill them. Yi Qiuxian and the others found that there were indeed giant snakes under the crack. However, there were only 3 left as the others had all left. Hiss hiss, the 3 giant snakes attacked Yi Qiuxian and the others. Each of the giant snakes had the cultivation of a peak almighty. However, there were only 3 of them. On the heavenly palace's side, there were 8 Lord of Heaven. 2 of them even had source-level divine weapons. Their combat strength was far superior to the 3 giant snakes. The 2 sides fought for a while. In the end, the 3 giant snakes were defeated and all of them were killed. Peel open the giant snake's body and see if Lu Ming has been eaten by the giant snake. Yi Qiuxian said. Immediately, one of the Lord of Heaven stepped forward, took out a sharp sword, and cut open the giant snake's stomach. However, he did not find Lu Ming's body. It seems that Lu Ming is not here. It's very likely that he survived. Yi Qiuxian said coldly. This underground world looks very big. It won't be easy to find Lu Ming. How about we split up and chase him? 2 people in a group and chase in 4 directions. The Purple Lord of Heaven's suggestion was approved by the others. This underground world was indeed very big. They could not see the end of it. If they searched together, the efficiency would be too low. If they split up, the efficiency would be greatly increased. With 2 Lord of Heaven in a group, even if Lu Ming had many treasures, he would not be able to escape death. Immediately, they split into 4 groups. 2 Lord of Heaven in a group. Yi Qiuxian with 2 Lord of Heaven in a group. The 4 groups split into 4 directions. They shot out like lightning and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Lu Ming was hiding on a giant rock and looking ahead. Is that a glazed peach? Lu Ming stared at a mountain peak in front of him without blinking. Up ahead, there was a mountain peak. The peak of the mountain wasn't very tall, and there was a huge peach tree at the peak. This peach tree had a diameter of 100 meters and a height of several thousand meters. It was incomparably huge. There were at least a few hundred peaches growing on this peach tree. Each peach was as big as a bucket. The peaches were sparkling and translucent, like colored glass. Lu Ming had seen records of such peaches in ancient books. This type of peach was known as the glazed peach. It was a type of primary divine medicine. Master-grade divine medicine, as the name implied, was a divine medicine that was extremely useful to divine masters. This was especially true for the colored glazed peach, which contained extremely rich essence qi. It could be refined directly to replace the desolate crystal and increase the cultivation of a divine master. For divine masters, other than the primal chaos crystal, there were actually many main-level divine herbs that could increase their cultivation. However, master-grade godly medicines were simply too rare. They were much rarer than great desolation gems. Just like source-grade godly medicines, the desolate universe couldn't nurture any of them. If one wanted to obtain them, they could only do so in the universe ruins. However, the laws of the universe ruins were chaotic in the past, so very few of them could be nurtured. It was only in the last few dozen stellar years that the laws of the universe ruins became more orderly. Some places could nurture some main-level divine herbs, but they were extremely rare. Therefore, divine masters mainly relied on great desolation gems to increase their cultivation. This continent had always been sealed in the 1,000-year battlefield. Just like the desolate continent, it didn't seem to be affected. The surviving species of the desolate universe had reproduced here, and they had encountered source-grade divine herbs before. Thus, it was normal for some main-level divine herbs to be nurtured. If I want to break through to the 6th level of the Divine Master realm, I'll need at least 5 to 6 million Great Desolation Gems. Where can I find so many Great Desolation Gems? If I have a few hundred colored glazed peaches, I might be able to take a big step forward and save a lot of Great Desolation Gems. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he thought about it. He had to increase his strength as soon as possible because he didn't know when the heavenly human race would arrive. If he could increase his cultivation to the 6th level of the Divine Master realm, he would be much more confident in protecting himself. However, it wasn't that easy to get these glazed peaches, because there were many apes living on the peach trees and mountain peaks. These apes were burly and extremely strong. They were obviously surviving species of the desolate universe. There were more than 100 of them. If he wanted to get these glazed peaches, he would have to fight with these apes. There's a peak Divine Master Monkey King and 3 9th level Divine Masters. The rest are all below the 9th level of the Divine Master realm. Even so, I can't deal with them. Now, I can only wait for the right time. Lu Ming thought about it and used the great concealment technique to hide in the rocks and wait for the right time. Half a day later, "Ao, ao, ao," the apes howled loudly, especially the Monkey King. Then, it led a group of apes into the distance and disappeared from Lu Ming's sight. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The opportunity had come. The Monkey King had taken away more than half of the apes, including 2 9th level Divine Master apes. Now, there was only 1 9th level Divine Master ape left on the mountain peak. With a 9th level Divine Master, Lu Ming now had a chance. However, Lu Ming did not immediately make his move. The Monkey King had only just left. If he made a move now, he might alarm the Monkey King. Lu Ming waited for 10-some minutes before making his move. Swish! Lu Ming used the extreme light art and shot toward the mountain peak like a bolt of lightning. Ao, 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 the apes immediately noticed Lu Ming and furiously roared. 10-some apes leaped at Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming roared as the war god's spear thrust forward, transforming into 10-some spear lights. Swoosh! Swoosh! The war god's spear was incredibly sharp. Although these apes had tough physical bodies and astonishing defensive abilities, they could not block the war god's spear's attacks. Those below the 8th level of the Godlord realm were unable to block a single spear light and were killed. The 2 8th level Godlord apes relied on their powerful defensive abilities to preserve their lives, but they were heavily injured, their heads almost exploding. Lu Ming moved with incredible speed and arrived at the mountain peak in an instant. Boom! The 9th tier Divine Master ape stomped on the ground, causing the ground to crack. Its burly body charged toward Lu Ming like a small mountain. It threw a punch, causing the void to crack. It was a shocking sight. Little ball! Lu Ming exclaimed softly. Chiu flew out and turned into a mirror. It shot out a beam of light and shrouded the 9th level Divine Master ape. The 9th level Godlord ape was instantly affected and fell into an illusion. However, primordial descendants seemed to have a powerful resistance to illusions. In just a moment, the ape began to roar and struggle. But this moment was enough for Lu Ming. Lu Ming thrust his spear with all his might toward the 9th level Divine Master ape. This spear erupted with the power of Origin Source. Chapter 4674. A 9th level Godlord ape was the strongest ape here. As long as he could deal with this ape, the rest would be easy. Thus, Lu Ming used his full strength the moment he attacked. Origin energy also erupted and poured into the war god's spear. Fush! This spear was unstoppable. It directly penetrated the space between the ape's eyebrows, blasting a large hole in the ape's forehead. The vitality of a primeval remnant was not to be underestimated. Even with a large hole in its forehead, this 9th level Godlord ape did not die immediately. It madly punched out with its fists, sending out 10-some punches before finally collapsing to the ground. Swish! 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 Lu Ming did not stop attacking the other apes. Faced with apes below the 9th tier of the Divine Master realm, with Chiu's cooperation, even without the power of the Origin, they could destroy them easily. Lu Ming killed 7 to 8 7th tier and 8th tier Divine Master apes consecutively. The other apes were terrified. They no longer dared to continue fighting with Lu Ming and Lu Ming, howling as they ran off into the distance. These apes were clearly running in the direction of the Monkey King, clearly intending to inform it. But Lu Ming did not care. He only needed a short period of time to harvest the colored peaches. Once he was done, Lu Ming would leave. Even if the Monkey King returned, it would not be able to find him. With the apes fleeing, Lu Ming flew to the top of the tree. His forbidden energy transformed into large hands that began to harvest the colored peaches. One bucket-sized colored peaches after another were put into Lu Ming's storage ring. Lu Ming was very fast at harvesting. In just a few minutes, he had harvested more than 300 colored peaches. Lu Ming then transformed into a ray of light that shot off into the distance, vanishing in the blink of an eye. More than 10 minutes after Lu Ming flew away, an earth-shattering roar could be heard from afar. The Monkey King flew over quickly. When it saw the bare peach tree, it roared furiously. It smashed the ground around it, forming many big pits. Unfortunately, it was useless. Just like before, Lu Ming set up several monitoring arrays after flying for a short distance. After flying for half a day, Lu Ming found a relatively secluded place and sat down cross-legged. He took out a glazed peach and began to gnaw it. The colored glass peach looked like colored glass, but its flesh was juicy and melted in the mouth. It was filled with rich life essence and energy. It was as big as a water bucket, and Lu Ming finished it in a few bites. Waves of energy crisscrossed within Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming began refining with all his might. About an hour later, the glazed peach was completely refined by Lu Ming. Carefully sensing the changes in the forbidden energy in his body, Lu Ming gasped in amazement. The energy contained in a single glazed peach is equivalent to 10,000 desolate crystals. More than 300 glazed peaches are equivalent to more than 3 million desolate crystals. There was joy on Lu Ming's face. Although more than 300 glazed peaches couldn't help Lu Ming break through, they could save Lu Ming more than 3 million desolate crystals. If he had enough main-grade divine herbs, he could indeed break through directly. These glazed peaches are truly priceless. If I'm below the third layer of the Divine Lord realm, I only need one to break through. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. He then took out another glazed peach and continued to refine it. Just like this, several days passed. Lu Ming had refined several dozen glazed peaches, and the forbidden energy in his body was growing thicker and thicker. But at this time, Lu Ming stopped cultivating. Let's see if the people from the heavenly palace are here. Lu Ming thought for a moment, then waved his hand. Several light screens appeared in the air. These light screens corresponded to the surveillance formations he had set up and could project images of the nearby area. He didn't see anyone from the heavenly palace in these images. Lu Ming waved his hand again, and the images changed. After all, Lu Ming had set up many surveillance formations, so he had to look through them one by one. After continuously changing dozens of images, finally, Lu Ming's pupils shrank when he saw one of the images. In this image, there were two figures standing high in the sky. These two figures were naturally the Lord of Heaven of the heavenly human tribe. One of them was the purple-robed Lord of Heaven who had chased after Lu Ming. Moreover, Lu Ming instantly determined that these two Lord of Heaven were very close to his current location. A layer of cold sweat seeped out of Lu Ming's forehead. He had forgotten about it because he was cultivating. Fortunately, he had checked in time. If he had delayed any longer, the other party might have found him. If the two Lord of Heaven attacked together, even if he had the protection of Qiuqiu's armor, he would still be shocked to death. Lu Ming ended his cultivation, withdrew his aura, and quietly left this place. Not long after Lu Ming left, two figures flashed in the place where Lu Ming had been cultivating in seclusion. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven appeared in the sky, looking in all directions and spreading out their spiritual senses. However, Lu Ming was now experienced. Before leaving, he had wiped out the aura he left behind, so the other party didn't find anything. Could it be that Lu Ming is not in this area? Or has he been eaten by the surviving species of the untainted land? The other Lord of Heaven, who was more burly, frowned. I don't think so. I guess he's near this area. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven said. Oh, why do you think so? The burly Lord of Heaven said in confusion. Have you forgotten those apes you saw before? Those apes were as violent as thunder, and that Monkey King was filled with killing intent. I'm guessing that there must have been a fruit on that peach tree, but it was plucked away by someone. That's why those apes were so violent. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven analyzed. Are you saying that Lu Ming plucked it away? The burly Lord of Heaven's eyes lit up. The others are searching in other directions. Who else could be in this direction except for us? So, I'm sure that Lu Ming is in this area. Maybe he's not far from us. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven said. Now that you mention it, it does make sense. Let's speed up the search. The burly Lord of Heaven laughed and flew forward. His spiritual consciousness whizzed out and covered a large area. On the other hand, Lu Ming was flying at high speed. At the same time, many thoughts were running through his mind. It seems that the people from the Heavenly Palace have really come in. Their purpose is obviously for me. I can't go on like this. They'll find me sooner or later. I either have to find another way out or launch a counterattack. Various thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. In the distant sky, a sharp chirp interrupted Lu Ming's train of thought. In the distant sky, there was a golden eagle. Its body was golden and its wings were hundreds of meters long. This golden eagle was almost identical to the golden eagle that Lion and the others had besieged earlier. Lu Ming was sure that the two were of the same species. Even though they were far away, Lu Ming could feel the terrifying aura of the golden eagle in the distance. It was definitely a peak almighty surviving species of the untainted land, and it was extremely terrifying. Chapter 4675. Lu Ming subconsciously tensed his muscles. His body flashed as he used the great concealment technique to hide in a rock. This golden condor's combat strength was simply too shocking. Lu Ming had a deep impression of it. Previously, Lion and the other 8 peak divine master experts had joined forces to fight against the golden condor, but it had been extremely difficult. In the end, Lion had been seriously injured before he finally killed the golden condor. Although the others were not injured, they had also consumed a lot of energy. The golden condor's combat strength was evident. Although it was also a peak divine master, it was definitely many times stronger than the giant snake. It was evident that the golden condor was extremely powerful even among the surviving species of the untainted land. In the void ahead, the golden condor swooped down and landed on a rock that protruded from the cliff. This golden condor is powerful enough. If I can borrow the power of this golden condor, I can kill the 2 Lord of Heaven of the heavenly human tribe. Lu Ming's mind quickly began to think. It was obviously unrealistic to rely on his own strength to deal with the 2 Lord of Heaven. He could only rely on external forces to deal with experts at the level of the Lord of Heaven. However, what should he do to borrow the power of the golden condor? This was very dangerous. If he did not do it right, he might get burned by playing with fire and lose himself. Lu Ming, I can sense that there is a metal vein underground that extends all the way to the cliff. Perhaps we can approach it silently. Chiu said. There is a metal vein underground? Can you approach the cliff without making any noise? Lu Ming's eyes lit up as an idea immediately surfaced in his mind. If he could get close to the golden condor and wait for the heavenly human tribe members to arrive, he could appear and lure the 2 heavenly human tribe members over. No. Lu Ming immediately shook his head and dismissed the idea. This method would not work at all. Firstly, if he took the initiative to appear, he would probably immediately be attacked by the golden condor. Secondly, even if the golden condor did not attack him, would the Lord of Heaven of the heavenly human tribe be so stupid as to attack him after seeing the golden condor? At that time, with the golden condor in front and the Lord of Heaven behind him, he would be in a desperate situation. What should we do? Lu Ming furrowed his brows deeply. At this moment, he deeply felt that his cultivation was too weak. If his cultivation was strong enough, he wouldn't have to waste so much effort. He could just charge over and crush the other party with his powerful battle prowess. Let's not think about it anymore. Let's go over and see what's going on. Having made up his mind, Lu Ming had Chiu dig a small hole in the ground before the 2 of them entered the underground metal mine. This metal mine was just an ordinary metal mine. It wasn't precious, but it was enough for them to pass through. Chiu wriggled and enveloped Lu Ming within it. It then integrated into the metal mine and moved along the metal mine toward the cliff. The cliff looked like it was made of brass, but it turned out to be a huge metal mine. This also made things easier for Lu Ming and the others. Chiu brought Lu Ming along and silently appeared on a cliff above the golden condor, watching it secretly from above. Those are bird eggs. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He discovered that there was a bird's nest on the protruding rock below. There were 3 huge golden bird eggs in the nest. The golden eagle was obviously incubating the eggs. If I can steal an egg, this golden eagle will probably go crazy. Right, I got it? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He thought of a way to use this golden eagle to deal with the 2 Lord of Heaven from the heavenly palace. Lu Ming and Qiuqiu quietly waited in the metal mine. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. They're here. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He saw 2 figures rapidly flying over from afar. They were the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven saw the golden eagle from afar and didn't dare to approach. They just glanced at it and left. Naturally, they couldn't discover Lu Ming and the others. What a pity, Lu Ming sighed. His plan hadn't succeeded yet, so he could only continue to hide. In the blink of an eye, another few days had passed. Whoosh! The great golden condor soared into the sky, flying into the distance in search of food. Just like the golden eagle that lion dealt with previously, this golden eagle also set up a formation before it left to hide the eggs. It couldn't be seen from the outside at all. Good chance. After the golden eagle left, Lu Ming and Qiuqiu took action. With Lu Ming's attainments in formations, it would be difficult for him to break the concealment formation set up by the golden eagle. It would take him at least a few days. After such a long time, the golden eagle would have been alerted. However, there was a loophole in this formation. There was a metal mine below. Therefore, Qiuqiu directly took action from below and silently obtained an egg. The golden bird egg had a diameter of a few meters. Lu Ming kept it in the ancient desolation ring. Then, Qiuqiu took Lu Ming and continued to merge with the metal mine before leaving silently. Not long after, the golden eagle seemed to have sensed that something was wrong with the egg and hurried back. When it saw that an egg was missing, it immediately let out an earth-shattering cry and flew around in the sky. From time to time, it would spit out a golden stream of light from its mouth, blasting a large hole in the ground. Caw! The golden eagle screamed and pounced on the other surviving species of the ancient wilderness in the surrounding area. The surviving species of the ancient wilderness in this area suffered. Dozens of them were killed by the golden eagle while the rest fled. The golden eagle screamed for a long time before it calmed down. It landed on the nest and didn't leave anymore. How terrifying! The strength of this golden eagle seems to be even stronger than the one that lion and the rest attacked previously. Its combat strength is far above the heavenly human race. What a terrifying species! Lu Ming sighed in his heart. However, the stronger the golden eagle, the better. Let's try and see if the golden eagle is sensitive to the eggs. Lu Ming pondered. Then he carefully went to the ground and took out the golden egg from the ancient wilderness ring. As soon as the golden egg was taken out, the golden eagle on the cliff immediately raised its head and screeched. It flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Then it rushed toward Lu Ming. Nest, your senses are really sharp. Lu Ming put the golden egg into the ancient wilderness ring as fast as he could. Then he and Qiuqiu quickly rushed into the metal mine and went down along the metal mine. Boom! Boom! Not long after Lu Ming entered the metal mine, an earth-shattering roar erupted from above. The place where Lu Ming was standing just now was brutally ravaged by the golden eagle's crazy attacks. A large piece of the hard ground was forcefully removed by the golden path, creating a large hole that was 10,000 meters deep. Fortunately, the metal mine here was rich. It extended down for more than 100,000 meters. Lu Ming and Qiuqiu went down without being attacked by the golden eagle. Chapter 4676. Half a day later, the golden eagle finally stopped and returned to the cliff. After a while, Lu Ming quietly returned to the ground and quickly flew into the distance. The direction Lu Ming was heading in was the direction where the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven had left. This time, Lu Ming wanted to take the initiative to find the 2 Lord of Heaven. Along the way, Lu Ming left clues and then sped up, flying in the direction of the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly man. Lu Ming didn't fly for long before he was discovered by the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven. This was because the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven would also leave surveillance formations in secret corners when they were moving forward. When Lu Ming passed by the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven, he was discovered. That kid has appeared. That kid is indeed in this area. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven's eyes lit up. This kid is actually behind us. It seems that he was hiding somewhere before and was overlooked by us. Let's see where you can run now. The burly Lord of Heaven laughed. Come, let's go quickly, lest that kid slips away again. Let's make it clear in advance. After killing Lu Ming, I'll have the first pick of the treasures on his body. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven said. It seems that you've taken a fancy to some treasure on his body. Don't think about taking the treasure for yourself. The burly Lord of Heaven sneered. The two of them were extremely fast. Soon they were close to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's reaction was extremely sharp. He was always ready and paying attention to his surroundings. He knew very well that if he could set up a surveillance formation, so could the other party. They could kill him at any time, so he was always highly focused. As soon as he discovered the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven, Lu Ming turned around and ran. The direction he was running in was naturally the direction of the Golden Eagle. Don't go. Lu Ming, this time, don't even think about running away. The two Lord of Heaven shouted and quickly chased after Lu Ming. Fortunately, this place was not far from the Golden Eagle. In this area, the Golden Eagle had gone crazy and there were almost no other surviving species of the untainted land. Therefore, Lu Ming did not need to worry about encountering other powerful surviving species of the untainted land. He could increase his speed to the maximum. In this way, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven would not be able to catch up with Lu Ming in a short time. Soon, they arrived at the area where the Golden Eagle was. Lu Ming rushed directly to a place that contained a metal vein. When he arrived, Chiu had already wrapped around Lu Ming. Lu Ming directly rushed into the metal vein. Before dashing into the metal or vein, Lu Ming took out the golden egg and threw it out with all his might. The golden egg was like a golden piece of metal. It smashed towards the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly man. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven really thought that the golden egg was Lu Ming's weapon to attack them. Clang! The burly Lord of Heaven held his battle saber and slashed out, directly splitting the golden egg into two halves. The egg liquid spilled all over the ground. This is an egg? The burly Lord of Heaven and the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven were slightly stunned. At this moment, an earth-shattering cry sounded. On the cliff, the golden eagle rushed into the sky. Its incomparably sharp eyes looked at the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven. When it saw the broken golden egg, its eyes turned red. It let out a crazy roar. Its golden body rushed towards the burly Lord of Heaven and the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven like a bolt of lightning. Oh no, we've been tricked. Damn it, let's go. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven immediately reacted. He roared and turned to run. The burly Lord of Heaven was slightly stunned. He also turned to run. However, their speed was much slower than that of the Golden Eagle. At this moment, the Golden Eagle was filled with endless killing intent. Its golden wings flapped rapidly. Its speed was extremely fast. In just a few minutes, it caught up with the burly Lord of Heaven. It opened its mouth and a golden blade of light shot towards the burly Lord of Heaven. The burly Heaven Monarch yelled as he waved his hand and slashed out a ray of light to block the light blade. However, the Golden Eagle had already arrived. Its golden wings were sharper than a divine blade. It slashed at the burly Lord of Heaven. Clang! The burly Heaven Monarch brandished his saber to block the attack. When the two collided, there was a violent explosion. Then, the burly Heaven Monarch's body shook violently and flew backward like a cannonball. As he flew, he vomited large amounts of blood. The bones in one of his arms were shattered. He almost couldn't hold his blade. His internal organs were also severely injured and almost shattered. They were both peak almighty, but his combat strength was far inferior to the Golden Eagle. He was severely injured in one move. After sending the burly Lord of Heaven flying, the Golden Eagle roared and continued to attack the burly man. "Save me! Come and help me!" Let's fight this eagle together. The burly man roared at the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. He was no match for the golden eagle alone. He would be torn to pieces. If there were two people, they would have a better chance of escaping. However, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven didn't even turn his head. He only shouted, "Hold on for a while. I'll go and find reinforcements. We're both peak almighty. I'll find a few more people to kill it." As he shouted, the purple-robed Lord of Heaven fled even faster. "Hold on my ass. How am I supposed to hold on alone?" The burly Lord of Heaven roared in rage. It was obvious that the purple-robed Lord of Heaven wanted to use him as a shield so that he could escape. But what could he do in this situation? He could only fight with his life on the line. With a furious roar, the paramount power of heaven blazed. The origin power of the origin seed was fully unleashed, surging into his saber as he slashed at the golden eagle. However, the golden eagle didn't dodge the attack of the burly Lord of Heaven, allowing it to strike its body. With a clang, the burly Lord of Heaven's saber struck the golden feathers, but it couldn't break through the golden eagle's defense. Instead, the golden eagle's sharp claws grabbed the chest of the burly Lord of Heaven and crushed his heart. But, "Lu Ming, I can't accept this." The burly Lord of Heaven let out a desperate roar. In the next moment, the golden condor's sharp claws tore the burly Lord of Heaven's body into pieces. His head was also swallowed by the golden condor. A powerful heaven monarch had perished in such an aggrieved manner. After killing the burly Lord of Heaven, the golden eagle was obviously not appeased. It flapped its wings and continued to fly towards the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. It believed that the purple-robed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven were in cahoots. Both of them were going to die. Damn it. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven was shocked and fled frantically. But it was obvious that the golden eagle was faster. Although there was some distance between the two, the distance between the two was quickly closing. Damn it, what should I do? What should I do? The purple-robed Lord of Heaven was extremely anxious, and various thoughts kept running through his mind. If this went on, he would also follow in the footsteps of the burly Lord of Heaven and be torn apart by the golden eagle. He didn't want to die like this, especially because of Lu Ming. Chapter 4677. I've got it. Let's go all out. A vicious light flashed through the eyes of the Lord of Heaven. He thought of a swamp he had passed by earlier. Several terrifying venomous insects resided in the swamp, and they were all peak god lords. His only chance of survival was to use those venomous insects to fend off the golden condor. Although that would be very dangerous and very likely lead to the venomous insects attacking him, there was nothing he could do about it. He directly charged toward the swamp. However, the golden condor was just too fast. The distance between them was rapidly closing. If this continued, it would catch up to him before he even reached the swamp. I've got to go all out. Lu Ming, as long as I don't die today, I'll definitely make you regret being born into this world. The Lord of Heaven roared furiously as madness filled his eyes. He had truly gone all out. The origin energy in the origin energy seed madly circulated, supporting his body and causing his speed to skyrocket once more. At the same time, he burned his supreme heavenly force to continue increasing his speed. Only by doing so did he manage to avoid the golden condor catching up. However, the aftereffects of doing so were extremely severe. The burning of his supreme heavenly force would damage his foundation. In the worst-case scenario, he would never be able to reach reciprocity again. In the blink of an eye, one fled while the other pursued. Lu Ming's figure appeared in the Orvane. With a flash, he appeared where the Lord of Heaven had been slain. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the Lord of Heaven's storage ring and stowed it away. That guy in purple really is difficult to deal with. Let's go take a look, Lu Ming pondered for a moment. Then, with a flash of his figure, he chased after the golden condor and the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven flew all the way. After half an hour, a huge swamp appeared in front of him. He had finally made it. After burning his divine force for half an hour, his foundation had been severely damaged. If he did not encounter a heaven-defying fortuitous encounter in the future, he would never be able to reach reciprocity again. He blamed everything on Lu Ming. However, the matter of dealing with Lu Ming could be put aside for now. First, he had to escape this calamity. He rushed straight into the swamp. As soon as he rushed into the swamp, he frantically attacked the bottom of the swamp. Hundreds of attacks fell into the swamp. Sweet. Strange cries immediately rang out from the swamp. Mud splattered everywhere as several colossal creatures appeared. A giant toad, a giant snake, and a giant lizard. The 3 poisonous insects were all at the peak of the Divine Master level. As soon as they appeared, they attacked the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven dodged with all his might and did not attack. However, he was not in his peak condition at all. His ultimate heavenly energy was burning severely, and the origin seed in his origin seed was completely exhausted. His fighting prowess was far from his peak. Even if he were to dodge with all his might, he would not be able to completely avoid the attacks of the 3 venomous bugs. He was directly hit by the toad's poisonous gas, causing him to scream in pain. At the same time, the giant lizard's tail whipped the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven's body smashed into the swamp like a cannonball. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven was smashed into the depths of the swamp and sank into the mud. However, the 3 venomous bugs did not have time to continue attacking, because the golden condor had already arrived. As soon as the golden condor entered the swamp, it swooped down and pounced on the swamp. The golden condor's target was the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven, but the 3 venomous bugs thought that the golden condor's target was them. This was because the golden condor usually fed on venomous bugs and snakes. Therefore, the 3 venomous bugs attacked the golden condor with all their might. The 2 sides immediately engaged in a fierce battle. Terrifying energy waves swept through the swamp. In the depths of the swamp, the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven vomited large mouthfuls of blood. His blood dyed the mud red. The giant lizard's tail whip had severely injured him. In addition, he was also poisoned by the toad's poison. This kind of poison had seeped into every part of his body and was constantly destroying his physical body. This kind of poison could even destroy his soul, making his soul feel weak. "Run, I must escape," the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven roared in his heart. He unleashed his remaining strength and broke through the mud, moving forward. He was unlucky. As he moved through the mud, he was hit by a few energy waves that shot down from above, worsening his injuries. However, he still managed to escape from the battlefield. When he was far away from the place where the 3 venomous bugs and the golden condor were fighting, he climbed out of the mud and flew into the distance. Lu Ming had been flying in the direction of the golden condor and the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven. After chasing for a while, a sharp cry suddenly came from a direction. "It's that golden condor. I almost went in the wrong direction." Lu Ming's eyes flashed. The golden condor's voice pierced through the void and traveled far to the left of Lu Ming. Lu Ming chased in the wrong direction. Fortunately, he heard the golden condor's voice. Swish. Lu Ming flew directly in the direction of the golden condor's voice. Soon he heard a series of roars. In addition to the golden condor's cry, there were also the cries of other surviving species of the untainted land. Lu Ming restrained his aura and approached carefully. He hid behind a large rock and looked forward. He saw the golden condor and the 3 venomous bugs fighting fiercely. That guy is smart. He actually thought of using the 3 venomous bugs to fight the golden condor so that he could take the opportunity to escape. However, he should be nearby. If he rashly enters the territory of the 3 venomous bugs, he will probably be attacked. If he is already injured, thinking of this, Lu Ming went to the other side where he had a better view and observed. That is, after a while, Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He saw some movement in a marsh in the distance. A lump of mud was wriggling. Then, a figure climbed out of the mud and rushed into the distance silently. If Lu Ming hadn't been watching, he would have missed it. It's the Lord of Heaven of the heavenly human race. It seems that he is injured. Let's go and see. Lu Ming walked along the side and followed him silently. Very soon, the 2 of them were far away from the battlefield. After leaving the battlefield, the purple Lord of Heaven used the power of heaven to wash the mud on the surface of his body clean. However, his aura was weak and his face was green. The surface of his skin was covered by a layer of mist. The poisonous gas was constantly corroding him, making him spit out a mouthful of blood. Lu Ming, it's all because of Lu Ming. My foundation is damaged. I must take revenge. Lu Ming, I will make you suffer, the purple-robed heaven monarch kept roaring in his heart. His face was hideous. He had suffered far too great of a loss. In order to preserve his life, he had severed all hopes of breaking through to reciprocity. All of this was because of Lu Ming. His hatred for Lu Ming was overwhelming. However, no matter how much he hated him, he still needed to find a place to heal first. Chapter 4678. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven roared in his heart as he flew into the distance. When he was far away from the battlefield of the golden condor and the 3 poisonous insects, the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven found a hidden canyon. He entered the canyon and sat cross-legged. He took out several divine elixirs and swallowed them in succession. Some were for healing, and some were for detoxifying. However, when he began to circulate his energy to refine the elixirs, he felt his heart palpitate, and an inexplicable great fear arose in his heart. Without hesitation, he moved his body to the side and opened his eyes at the same time. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a spear light in front of him that was rapidly stabbing towards him. Fortunately, his spiritual sense was extremely sharp, and he dodged one step ahead of time, narrowly avoiding this move. With a puff, the spear light flew past the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven's head and pierced the wall of the canyon behind him, directly piercing through the canyon. Cold sweat broke out on the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven's forehead. This spear was aimed at his glabella just now. If it had pierced through, his glabella would definitely have been pierced and he would have been killed directly. Immediately after, the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven saw a young and handsome figure walking over in the air. His pupils contracted sharply and he couldn't help but roar, "Lu Ming, it's you." Who else could it be other than Lu Ming? As expected of the Lord of Heaven, your spiritual sense is really sharp. Lu Ming sighed. The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven was clearly seriously injured, but he was still able to avoid his sneak attack while refining elixirs to heal himself. This really surprised Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you actually dare to appear in front of me. You're really bold, but it's good. It saves me some effort to find you, the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven shouted, revealing a strong murderous intent, as if he was about to attack immediately. Lu Ming sneered and said, "You don't have to scare me. You suffered a heavy blow and were poisoned. You don't have much strength left. If you were really powerful, you would have taken action long ago. You're just shouting to scare me. This shows that you really can't make it." The purple-clothed Lord of Heaven's expression was extremely ugly. His heart kept sinking. He pretended to be an expert just now. In fact, he wanted to scare Lu Ming and scare Lu Ming away. However, Lu Ming saw through it completely. "Little ball, do it." Lu Ming did not waste any more words. After instructing Qiu, he immediately made his move. Boom. He slapped out with his left palm and used the desolation style. A continent condensed and pressed down on the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. The eldritch continent was so huge that it completely enveloped the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. At the same time, Lu Ming used the sky-piercing style and became one with the spear. He stabbed at the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. On the other side, Qiu also made his move. He turned into a mirror and shot out a beam of light, enveloping the purple-robed Lord of Heaven. Ah! The purple-robed Lord of Heaven roared and struggled frantically, trying to break free from Qiu's illusion. At the same time, his body moved, trying to avoid Lu Ming's attack. However, it was obvious that the purple-robed Lord of Heaven was far from his peak. At his peak, Qiu's illusion could barely do anything to him. However, it was very difficult for him to break free now. The continent in the sky also pressed down, making it difficult for him to move his body. He tried his best, but only managed to move a little. The war god's spear pierced the purple-robed Lord of Heaven's heart. The terrifying power directly tore the purple-robed Lord of Heaven's body apart, leaving only his head. Ah! The purple-robed Lord of Heaven howled in pain, his eyes flashing with fear and unwillingness. He truly didn't have much strength left. If he had been at his peak, he wouldn't have been able to take a single blow. Earlier, in order to escape from the Golden Eagle, he had exhausted all of his origin energy, and he had even burned away most of his supreme heavenly energy. Later on, he had suffered a heavy blow from the giant lizard and been poisoned by the toad. He truly didn't have much strength left. Let alone Lu Ming, any 5th or 6th level God Lord would be able to defeat him in a direct confrontation. Thus, in the face of Lu Ming's attack, he had used all of his skills, but he still couldn't take a single blow. Lu Ming, even if you kill me, you won't live for long. The ancestor will kill you. You will die at the ancestor's hands. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven roared. Ancestor? Lu Ming frowned and coldly asked, Who is the ancestor? Don't even think about finding out. When you find out, it will be the day of your death. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven roared. Bang! Lu Ming didn't want to waste his breath. The war god's spear lashed upward, causing the purple-robed Lord of Heaven's head to explode. His soul was also instantly extinguished. The purple-robed Lord of Heaven was slain in an extremely sullen manner. Lu Ming let out a long breath. His plan had finally come to fruition. With a wave of his hand, he took the purple-robed Lord of Heaven's storage ring and left in a flash. After leaving this place, Lu Ming found another secluded place to continue refining the colored peaches. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming had refined several dozen colored peaches, and his cultivation had advanced a little more. His forbidden energy had also grown a little more vigorous. However, Lu Ming still felt that it was too slow. He knew that Yi Qiuxian and the others would definitely be searching for him in this underground world. As time passed, they would definitely discover some clues. Refining the colored peaches alone is still too slow. Moreover, even if I refine all the colored peaches in my hand, my cultivation won't be able to break through to the 6th tier of the Divine Master Realm. There won't be a significant increase in my fighting strength. I need to think of another method. I can either find another way to deal with Yi Qiuxian and the others or find another exit to leave. Lu Ming pondered and made up his mind. He stopped refining the colored peaches and got up to leave in search of an opportunity to escape. On the other side, Yi Qiuxian and the others had been searching for Lu Ming over the past few days, but to no avail. They did, however, find some main divine herbs, so this trip wasn't in vain. However, Yi Qiuxian's expression was still very ugly. He couldn't rest easy until he killed Lu Ming. Send a message to the others and ask if there's any news about Lu Ming. Yi Qiuxian said. Alright. The two Lord of Heaven beside Yi Qiuxian nodded and took out their respective voice transmission jade talismans to send messages to the other 3 groups. In the universe ruins, the illusory divine jade definitely couldn't be used. However, voice transmission jade talismans could be used. As long as the distance wasn't too far, they could use the voice transmission jade talismans to send messages. However, the speed of the voice transmission jade talismans was far inferior to the illusory divine jade. The next moment, several beams of light flew out of the two Lord of Heaven's hands and disappeared into the sky. They waited quietly. After a while, 2 beams of light flew towards them from afar and were caught by them. They were 2 voice transmission jade talismans. The 2 scanned them with their spiritual senses and then handed the voice transmission jade talismans to Yi Qiuxian. There's no news about Lu Ming. Yi Qiuxian frowned. 2 of the groups had sent messages saying that they hadn't found any traces of Lu Ming. Could Lu Ming have died in the mouth of the wilderness surviving species? Yi Qiuxian guessed. Chapter 4679. They waited for a few more minutes. Why haven't Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan sent any news back yet? Yi Qiuxian frowned. Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan were the 2 Lord of Heaven who were killed by Lu Ming. They're probably quite far away. Let's wait a little longer. A Lord of Heaven said. Then, 10 minutes passed and there was still no news. Let's send another message to them. Yi Qiuxian had a bad premonition in his heart. A Lord of Heaven sent another message to Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan. However, another 10 minutes passed and there was still no news. It was like a stone sinking into the sea. Yi Qiuxian and the other 2 looked serious. It seems that something has happened. Gather the others. We'll go to the direction where Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan were searching. Yi Qiuxian said. Then, the two Lord of Heaven sent another message to the two groups of Lord of Heaven who had replied. After a while, two Lord of Heaven came from two different directions. In this way, Yi Qiuxian and the sixth Lord of Heaven met up and headed towards the direction where the purple Lord of Heaven was. After a careful investigation, they found the place where the purple Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven were killed. The purple Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven were killed. Although they were almost torn apart and broken, but how powerful were the Lord of Heaven? They were able to accurately find them. Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan are dead. Their bodies and souls are destroyed. A Lord of Heaven said with an ugly face. Who killed them? That Lu Ming. How could he have such combat strength? Could it be that they were killed by some powerful ancient species? Another Lord of Heaven said. The probability of being killed by the surviving species of the Great Desolate Realm is extremely small. Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan are not idiots. When they see the surviving species of the Great Desolate Realm at the peak of the Divine Lord level, they will take a detour. With their cultivation, the surviving species of the Great Desolate Realm would not be able to catch up to them, unless they encountered an Origin Realm ancient species. However, there doesn't seem to be any Origin Realm ancient species in this underground world. At least we haven't encountered one yet. Yi Qiuxian analyzed. What do you mean, Lord Qiuxian? A Lord of Heaven looked at Yi Qiuxian in doubt. Lu Ming, it must be Lu Ming. That Lu Ming is cunning and has various trump cards. He most likely used some kind of trick to cause Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan to perish. Qiuxian said. The other Lord of Heaven's hearts sank. Was it really Lu Ming's doing? That Lu Ming was truly terrifying. The danger level of Lu Ming in their hearts had unknowingly increased. Lu Ming is very dangerous, so all the more we have to kill him. He should be in the direction ahead. Let's go after him. No matter what, there are 7 of us. No matter how crafty Lu Ming is, it's useless. As long as we encounter him, we'll attack him. Qiuxian said. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 7 of them moved and headed in the direction Lu Ming was heading. Lu Ming continued forward for another 2 days, but he still couldn't find the exit. Suddenly, a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering roar came from the front. It shook the heavens and the earth, rumbling and exploding. Following that, there were other roars, followed by flashes of light. There was a black light, a fiery red light, a white light. It lit up the entire sky. Over there, could it be that the surviving species of the Great Wilderness are fighting each other? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He decided to check it out. He wanted to check it out mainly because he wanted to see if he could be the fisherman. When the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fisherman would reap the benefits. Lu Ming approached cautiously. He hid in a large tree and cast the great concealment art. His body was almost one with the tree as he looked ahead. There was a mountain ahead. There was a cave at the foot of the mountain. At this moment, an intense battle was taking place outside the cave. 5 primordial remnant species were attacking another primordial remnant species. What powerful strength! Lu Ming could not help but gasp when he saw that. The 5 ancient species were of different shapes and sizes. Some resembled an eagle, some resembled a giant wolf, and one of them was a python. Each of the ancient species was a peak almighty. Moreover, they were not ordinary peak almighty. Their combat strength surpassed that of the Lord of Heaven of the heavenly human tribe. However, the most terrifying one was the ancient species that was being besieged. It was a strange beast that looked like a fierce tiger. Its body was covered with black hair and there was a row of fangs in its mouth. Its body was completely black and a layer of black flame was burning fiercely during the battle. This surviving species of the Great Desolate Era was truly incomparably powerful. It was able to fight against 5 powerful surviving species of the Great Desolate Era all by itself without being at a disadvantage. That seems to be demonic chi? Lu Ming was a little surprised. The energy that surged around the ancient species that looked like a black tiger seemed to be demonic chi. It was extremely rich and overbearing. Yes, it is indeed demonic chi. It is extremely rich and pure. It seems that there was demonic chi in the untainted land of the last era. My predecessor was indeed a grand cultivator of the last era. Bone Demon shouted excitedly in his sea of consciousness. Lu Ming, if I have the bones of this surviving species of the untainted land, I will definitely be able to recover a lot of my strength. By then, even if those heavenly lords come, I will be able to help you kill them all. Bone Demon continued to shout and became more and more excited. This ancient species is too strong. I can't deal with it at all. Lu Ming sighed. Let's wait and see. These ancient species seem to be competing for something. If they can injure each other, we will have a chance. Bone Demon said. The battle continued and it was getting more and more intense. The 5 surviving species of the untainted land wanted to kill the pitch-black tiger-like surviving species of the untainted land. Their target seemed to be that cave. As for the tiger-like great desolate surviving species, it guarded the cave tightly. It displayed its terrifying battle prowess and fought against the 5 great desolate surviving species. A few minutes later, both sides were injured. Wounds appeared on their bodies and blood kept flowing. The ancient species that looked like an eagle swooped down. Its sharp claws were like hooks. It immediately tore off a large piece of flesh from the ancient species that looked like a tiger. However, the tiger-like surviving species of the untainted land went berserk as well. It pounced forward and clawed at the head of the python, crushing it into pieces. The powerful python was killed. However, the python fought back before it died. Its tail hit the ancient species that looked like a tiger and made it roll away. However, the ancient species that looked like a tiger rolled a few times and stood up again. It continued to fight as if nothing had happened. The 2 sides fought fiercely for a few more minutes. After paying a certain price, the ancient species that looked like a tiger seized the opportunity to kill another ancient species. The remaining 3 ancient species were a little frightened. However, they did not retreat. Instead, they continued to fight. The battle that followed was even more intense. Both sides were covered in wounds. Chapter 4680. The 2 sides fought for more than 10 minutes. In the end, 3 surviving species of the untainted land were killed by the tiger-like surviving species of the untainted land. The remaining 2 surviving species of the untainted land were finally scared and fled. However, the tiger-like surviving species of the untainted land was also heavily injured. There were at least a dozen wounds on its body, some of which were very serious. Even half of its heart was torn apart. Its head had also exploded, and it had almost died. It dragged its exhausted body into the cave. Do it. Kill it while it's weak. Bone Demon yelled. Wait, don't get too excited. Let's think about it at length. Lu Ming said. What do you mean by think about it at length? If you miss this opportunity, you won't get it again. Only by killing this surviving species of the untainted land can I recover some of my strength and help you deal with those heavenly humans. Otherwise, once they find you, you'll be dead. If you don't fight now, when will you? Bone Demon yelled. I understand what you're saying, but that surviving species of the untainted land is too strong. To be honest, even if I have Chiu to protect me, I won't be able to withstand 2 moves from it. Lu Ming said. He naturally wanted to kill that surviving species of the untainted land very much. Perhaps this would be a turning point for him to escape and deal with the heavenly humans. However, that surviving species of the untainted land was too strong. Even though it was heavily injured, its battle strength was still astonishing. It was much stronger than the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming felt that even if the tiger-like surviving species of the untainted land had not reached the origin realm, it was not far from it. You're right, but it's not like we don't have a chance. Bone Demon said. Do you have a way to deal with that surviving species of the untainted land? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. To be honest, with my current strength, it's very difficult for me to interfere with the enemies you're facing now. In the past, I could still interfere with the small fights between divine kings and divine lords. However, your current opponents are almost all divine lords, and peak divine lords at that. I can't interfere at all. However, this surviving species of the untainted land uses demonic chi. I have a way. Bone Demon said. What idea do you have? Lu Ming asked. Let's enter the cave stealthily. You use your full strength to attack this great desolate remnant beast's vitals. Once you attack, that great desolate remnant beast will definitely counterattack. I have a way to break its demonic chi and render its counterattack ineffective. Guillermo said. Alright, if that's the case, we can give it a try. What do you need? Lu Ming said. Give me some jade talismans, I'll refine some things. Guillermo said. Lu Ming did not delay at all. With a wave of his hand, several hundred jade talismans flew out. I don't need that much. 36 pieces is enough. The bone devil flew out from between Lu Ming's eyebrows. It waved its bony claws, and runes flew out one after another, and submerged into the 36 jade talismans. He was refining a simple jade talisman. The bone devil's speed was very fast. It finished refining in about a minute. Let's go in. Bone put away the 36 jade talismans and landed on Lu Ming's shoulder. Lu Ming concealed his aura and carefully walked into the cave. He did not encounter any danger and easily passed through the cave. What entered his eyes was a rather large cave. In the center of the cave there was a pond. Some plants grew on both sides of the pond. They were lush and filled with an astonishing medicinal fragrance. That's main grade divine medicine, and, after seeing the plants on both sides of the pond, Lu Ming's eyes widened. If he had not tried his best to hold it in, his heart would have probably begun to beat violently. Those plants were not ordinary plants. They were main grade divine medicines. There were several hundred of them. However, this was not what attracted Lu Ming's attention the most. What attracted Lu Ming's attention the most was the center of the pond. There was a lotus in the center of the pond. The lotus gave off a hazy glow. Above the lotus, there was a small lotus made of energy that flew around. Origin grade divine medicine. Lu Ming recognized it with a single glance. It was an origin grade divine medicine. It contained a dense origin imprint. It was an origin grade divine medicine that could increase a reciprocity expert's cultivation after they refined it. Lion and the others had come across a origin grade divine medicine earlier. It was because of that origin grade divine medicine that they had engaged in a great battle with the golden condor. Needless to say, origin grade divine medicines were precious. Even reciprocity experts would turn green with envy when they saw them. They would want to kill each other. Lu Ming had never thought that there would be one here. Lu Ming finally understood why the 5 surviving species of the primordial world had besieged the tiger-like surviving species of the primordial world. He reckoned that their objective was this stock of source-level divine medicine. The tiger-like primitive descendant lay on the edge of the pond, chewing on a few main-grade divine medicines. It was very likely that it wanted to use the main-grade divine medicine to heal its wounds. What a waste! Lu Ming muttered inside. However, he could already tell that the injuries of the tiger-like primitive descendant were extremely severe. Even now, blood was still flowing from its wounds, dyeing the ground red. Its aura was very weak. It lay on the ground without moving at all. It did not notice Lu Ming at all. Fantastic! The injuries of this primitive descendant are even more severe than I imagined. Our chances have greatly increased. Lu Ming, attack the injured half of its head. You must kill it with a single strike. Bone Demon said. All right, get ready. Lu Ming called out with his spiritual sense. Afterwards, he erupted with all his strength and used the heaven-piercing style. He became one with his spear and stabbed at the head of the tiger-like primitive descendant. The head of the primitive descendant had already been heavily injured. Half of it had been torn off. It was a fatal weakness. Lu Ming also erupted with the origin energy of the origin source seed. He had to kill it with a single strike. At the same time, it turned into an armor that enveloped Lu Ming. Just in case, he had to defend himself. A furious roar was heard. As soon as Lu Ming attacked, he was discovered by the tiger-like primitive descendant. It suddenly jumped up and a strong demonic aura burst out of its body. It turned into a flame that burned fiercely. The demonic fire turned into a blast wave that rushed towards Lu Ming. Bone Demon took action in time. With a wave of his hand, 36 runes flew out and turned into a formation that enveloped the tiger-like primitive descendant. Suddenly, the demonic aura of the tiger-like primitive descendant melted quickly like ice meeting fire. Lu Ming rushed past it. The demonic aura did not affect Lu Ming at all. The tiger-like primitive descendant was stunned. Obviously, it did not expect such a situation to happen. In addition, its injuries were too severe. It was too late for it to move and dodge. The divine war spear pierced through its injured head. The origin energy erupted and the terrifying power of the divine war spear burst out from the head of the tiger-like primitive descendant. Chapter 4681. After the war god's spear pierced into the head of the tiger-shaped surviving species of the untainted land, it let out an earth-shattering roar. The entire cave shook violently. Then, the tiger-shaped surviving species of the untainted land grabbed at Lu Ming with its sharp claws. This was a desperate grab before its death. It was so powerful that Lu Ming was sent flying and crashed into the wall of the cave. The wall exploded. Lu Ming's body smashed through the cave and flew out. He fell on the ground, creating a gully that was tens of thousands of meters long and dozens of meters deep. Lu Ming spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt that dozens of bones were broken and his internal organs were completely shattered. What a powerful force! Fortunately, I have Qiuqiu's armor to protect me. Otherwise, this move would have killed me. Lu Ming was shocked. This was an attack that the surviving species of the untainted land had launched when it was seriously injured. Its strength was definitely not at its peak. One could imagine how powerful this surviving species of the untainted land was. An angry roar came from the cave and the rocks exploded. This surviving species of the untainted land actually rushed out of the hole that Lu Ming had smashed through and rushed toward Lu Ming. The war god's spear was still in its head, which looked extremely terrifying. Lu Ming was shocked. He retreated with all his strength and did not dare to face it head-on. Fortunately, this surviving species of the untainted land staggered for a distance and fell to the ground with a plop. It was completely lifeless. This surviving species of the untainted land was finally dead. Lu Ming's attack just now had completely destroyed its head. Bone Demon also flew out of the cave. He circled the surviving species of the untainted land twice and confirmed that it was indeed dead. Bone Demon, what should we do now? Lu Ming walked over and pulled out the war god spear. Drag it back to the cave and leave it to me, Bone Demon said. Lu Ming nodded and dragged the surviving species of the untainted land back to the cave. Bone Demon surrounded the tiger-shaped surviving species of the untainted land and kept pointing his hands. Streaks of black light entered the body of the surviving species of the untainted land. After a while, strip! Bone Demon shouted and grabbed at the air. The tiger-shaped surviving species of the untainted land wriggled and some bones came out of its flesh. More and more bones appeared. The Bone Devil had completely separated the skeleton of the tiger-shaped surviving species of the untainted land from its flesh and blood. Not long after, a complete tiger-shaped skeleton appeared in front of Lu Ming. The bones of the tiger-shaped Great Desolate Aeon Remnant were as black as ink and as smooth as jade. They did not seem to contain any impurities and gave off a dense demonic qi. Next, I need some time to fuse with this skeleton. Once I do, I will definitely be able to recover a portion of my strength. After saying that, Gu Mo's body turned into a ray of light and flew into the tiger-shaped skeleton, disappearing from sight. As the Bone Demon began to fuse with its skeleton, Lu Ming looked at the pond. Several hundred stalks of main-grade divine herbs and one stalk of origin-grade divine herb. Such precious treasures could not be missed. Lu Ming took action, uprooting hundreds of main-grade divine herbs and placing them into the Great Desolate Ring. Although the Great Desolate Ring was brimming with vitality and lush vegetation, it lacked divine herbs. Once these divine herbs were transplanted into the Great Desolate Ring, they could be uprooted and used without losing their medicinal properties. Lastly, there was the stalk of source-level divine herb. Lu Ming planned to transplant it into the Chaos Ring. He could not use origin-grade divine herbs at all right now. At the very least, he would need to wait until he reached peak Divine Master before he could use them. They would be very effective for breaking through to reciprocity. This pond water is not simple. At this moment, Lu Ming discovered that the pond water was not simple at all. It was extremely viscous and filled with a shocking amount of energy. The energy was pure and gentle, very similar to the energy in the great desolate crystals. The pond water seemed to have liquefied the great desolate crystals. No wonder it can nurture so many divine herbs. So it has something to do with the pond water. If I can absorb the pond water, my cultivation might reach a new level. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. After carefully transplanting the origin grade divine herb into the great desolate ring, Lu Ming leapt into the pond water with a plop. After jumping into the pond water, Lu Ming began to circulate his forbidden energy. All the pores on his body opened, producing an extremely powerful suction force. Extremely pure energy constantly gathered towards Lu Ming from the pond water. It seeped into every pore of his body and permeated Lu Ming's entire body before being absorbed and refined by Lu Ming. It was converted into forbidden energy. Lu Ming had guessed correctly. The pond water was like liquid great desolate crystals. It contained extremely pure energy that could be rapidly absorbed and refined, increasing the cultivation of a divine master. The divine herbs from before had been nurtured by the pond water. Lu Ming rapidly absorbed the energy in the pond water to increase his cultivation. The pond water was rapidly consumed as well, decreasing at a visible rate. In just a few days, the pond water had decreased by more than half. Lu Ming's cultivation had also reached a limit. The limit of a fifth-layer divine master. Lu Ming growled. The extremely dense forbidden energy in his body began to circulate as he began to break through to the sixth-layer divine master realm. With sufficient energy, this was not difficult at all. Breaking through was practically a matter of course. Boom! Lu Ming's aura skyrocketed, increasing by a large margin. He successfully broke through to the sixth-layer divine master realm. There was still about half of the pond water left. Lu Ming did not want to waste it, so he continued to absorb it. However, he needed at least 5 million great desolate crystals to break through to the sixth-layer divine master realm. It might even be more. In that case, the amount of great desolate crystals needed to break through to the seventh-layer divine master realm would be even more terrifying. It would be 10 times more than the former. 50 to 60 million. Thus, although the pond water was rich in energy, it was practically impossible for the current Lu Ming to break through. However, after reaching the sixth-layer divine master realm, Lu Ming's refining speed had greatly increased. In less than a day, Lu Ming had completely refined the remaining pond water. His cultivation had also completely stabilized at the sixth-layer divine master realm, roughly at the peak of the early stage. I've finally reached the sixth-layer divine master realm. As Lu Ming sensed the surging energy in his body, his confidence soared. A sixth-layer divine master was much stronger than a fifth-layer divine master. Although he might not be able to defeat the Lord of Heaven, his chances of survival had greatly increased. I wonder what will happen if I face Yi Qiuxian now? A cold light flashed through Lu Ming's eyes. He was now on the same level as Yi Qiuxian. In a battle of the same level, he did not fear anyone. There seems to be a spring below. Lu Ming examined the bottom of the pond and discovered a spring. But no water flowed out of the spring. The water in this pond is very likely flowing out of this spring. It's just that the speed is very slow. It might take a very long time for a few drops to flow out. Lu Ming speculated. Then he looked at Bone Devil. Powerful demonic energy surged over from Bone Devil's side. At this moment, the tiger-shaped primordial remnant skeleton had undergone a major transformation. Chapter 4682. Originally, the skeleton was in the shape of a tiger, but now, it had changed drastically. The tiger-shaped skeleton had actually transformed into a humanoid skeleton. It looked almost the same as the bone demon from before, except that it was much larger. It was about the size of an ordinary person. It was pitch black and as smooth as jade. It seemed to contain terrifying energy as waves of powerful aura permeated the surroundings. This is the aura of a peak divine master. Can the bone demon recover his cultivation of a peak divine master? Lu Ming pondered and a hint of surprise appeared on his face. Lu Ming did not have to wait for long. A while later, the bone demon withdrew his aura and his two eye sockets flickered with a fiery red light. I've finally recovered a little. It feels great to be in control of my power. The bone demon laughed heartily and twisted his body, producing cracking sounds. Bone demon, how is it? Can you deal with 6 Lord of Heaven at the same time? Lu Ming asked. There were a total of 8 Lord of Heaven beside Yi Qiuxian. 2 of them had already been killed, so there were 6 left. I can't. The bone demon answered straightforwardly. This skeleton is only the skeleton of a peak divine master after all. It's not the skeleton of an origin realm expert. Moreover, the energy contained within the skeleton is not much to begin with. Coupled with some of my own tricks, dealing with 2 or 3 Lord of Heaven is not a problem, but dealing with 6 is impossible. You can't deal with 6? Lu Ming frowned. If that was the case, he would have no chance of winning against Yi Qiuxian and the others. Unless they split up. However, would they still split up after the purple-clothed Lord of Heaven and the burly Lord of Heaven were killed? They were probably not that stupid. If that was the case, he could only run away if he encountered Yi Qiuxian and the others. However, it's not impossible to deal with 6 Lord of Heaven if you plan carefully. The bone demon's tone changed. You have a way? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. After Bone Demon finished speaking, he stepped out of the cave and walked out. Lu Ming followed him out. There are 3 great Desolate-era surviving species corpses here. I can peel off their bones and refine 3 devil bone puppets. Although these 3 surviving species of the untainted land do not have any devil chi, and the devil bone puppets that they have refined are not authentic and can only be used once, each of them should be able to deal with 1 Lord of Heaven. If we plan carefully, we may be able to take down 6 Lord of Heaven. Guimo said. As soon as he finished speaking, Guimo grabbed at the air and 3 balls of demonic energy flew out from his hand and enveloped the corpses of the 3 black, red, and yellow species. Soon the 3 skeletons were removed. The 3 corpses belonged to the 3 primordial surviving species that had been killed by the tiger-shaped primordial surviving species. They were all peak divine masters and extremely powerful. Lu Ming, I'll enter your ancient desolate ring first and refine the demonic bone puppet. This kind of one-time use demonic bone puppet can be refined very quickly. You can find a place to set it up. Guimo said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. With a wave of his hand, he kept Guimo into the ancient desolate ring. Then, his figure flashed and he left the place. Not long after, Lu Ming found a relatively hidden canyon. It's here. However, I still need to set it up for Yi Qiuxian and the others to find me, Lu Ming muttered. Then, his figure flashed and he left the place, heading in the direction he had come from. Of course, Lu Ming was very cautious. He was afraid that he would run into Yi Qiuxian and the others. Guimo had not refined the demonic bone puppet yet and was not a match for them. If he ran into them, he could only retreat. Fortunately, Lu Ming did not run into Yi Qiuxian and the others after traveling for hundreds of thousands of miles. At this moment, a huge surviving species of the untainted land had its eyes on Lu Ming. It was a lion. Its body was fiery red as if it was burning. Its aura was powerful and it was a 9th-level divine master. I was just about to find a surviving species of the untainted land to set it up. I didn't expect it to come here by itself. Lu Ming revealed a faint smile. The fiery red lion pounced at Lu Ming. Its sharp claws swiped at Lu Ming's chest. Lu Ming did not dodge. He allowed the lion's sharp claws to strike his chest. Blood splattered. A piece of flesh was ripped out of Lu Ming's chest. However, at the same time, Lu Ming attacked. The war god's spear appeared in his hand and he thrust it at the lion's head. At such a close distance and with Lu Ming's current strength, the lion could not dodge at all. The war god's spear pierced through its head and it died instantly. Lu Ming circulated his taboo energy. The wound on his chest rapidly healed. Lu Ming did not dodge and allowed the lion to attack him on purpose. He wanted to pretend that he had fought with the surviving species of the untainted land and was seriously injured. In the end, he killed the surviving species of the untainted land and escaped. Pulling out the war god's spear, Lu Ming flew towards the canyon that he had his eyes on. Of course, along the way, Lu Ming deliberately spilled a little of his blood. In that case, when Yi Qiuxian and the rest saw this, they would definitely think that Lu Ming had been attacked by the surviving species of the untainted land. Although he had killed the surviving species of the untainted land, he had also suffered serious injuries and was bleeding all the way. They would then find Lu Ming based on the bloodstains. Even if the lion's corpse was eaten by the other surviving species of the untainted land, with the intelligence of Yi Qiuxian and the others, they would definitely be able to deduce that Lu Ming had been injured in the fight with the surviving species of the untainted land. They would find the canyon based on the bloodstains. "I'll meet you guys in that canyon," Lu Ming muttered. Along the way, Lu Ming would leave a few drops of blood every once in a while. Along the way, he arrived near the canyon. Then, Lu Ming entered the canyon and sat down cross-legged, waiting quietly. Now, all he had to do was wait. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. The bone demon had already finished refining the devil bone puppet, but there was still no trace of Yi Qiuxian and the others. Lu Ming was not in a hurry. After all, the underground world was quite big. It would not be easy to find Lu Ming's bloodstains. Another 3 days passed. "They're here." The bone demon's voice rang out in his sea of consciousness. Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes and looked around. He deliberately shouted, "Who's there?" "Lu Ming, how long has it been since we last met? Have you forgotten about us?" A cold voice rang out. Outside the canyon, a few figures walked over. The one in the middle was Yi Qiuxian. On his left and right were 2 Lord of Heaven experts. Swoosh, 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 around the canyon, another 4 figures appeared and surrounded Lu Ming. They were the other 4 Lord of Heaven. "Yi Qiuxian, how did you find this place?" "Wait, my blood stains." Lu Ming deliberately pretended to have a drastic change of expression. "Hee, it's too late to think of it now." Yi Qiuxian sneered, his killing intent cold. He continued, "Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan were killed by you, right? Are you talking about the 2 Lord of Heaven? So what if they are? Perhaps the next one will be you," Lu Ming said coldly. Chapter 4683. Lu Ming, you must have used some scheme to kill Yi Chuzi and Yi Lingshan. Or you must have borrowed the power of other ancient remnant beasts. However, we have already scouted this place thoroughly before we came in. There are no powerful ancient remnant beasts within 100,000 miles. There are also no traces of any array in this canyon. And now, you are surrounded by 6 Lord of Heaven. How are you going to survive?" Yi Qiuxian sneered. They were not fools. Before they came, they were afraid that this might be Lu Ming's scheme. Therefore, they had already scouted the surroundings before they entered the canyon. They did not find any powerful ancient remnant beasts. At the same time, they had also scouted the canyon. There were no traces of any array in this canyon. Therefore, they were very confident. "Young Master Qiuxian, why are you talking nonsense with him? Let me kill him." Beside Yi Qiuxian, a gray-robed elder shouted coldly. He took a step forward and rushed toward Lu Ming like lightning. A battle sword appeared in his hand and he slashed at Lu Ming. The power of this sword was extremely terrifying. It was as if it was going to split the heavens and earth. The Lord of Heaven's combat strength was undoubtedly displayed. Lu Ming held the war god's spear in his hand and the taboo energy in his body erupted. At the same time, he activated the war symbol art and increased his combat strength by 8 times. The war god's spear swept out and collided with the opponent's battle sword. Clang! There was an earth-shattering roar and a powerful force swept out. The earth rumbled and rocks exploded. A layer of the earth was forcefully shaved off. The surrounding mountains of the canyon were also exploding and gravel flew everywhere. Then, Lu Ming's figure retreated rapidly. His face was flushed and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. So powerful. No wonder he is a peak divine master. Lu Ming muttered. He felt his entire arm go numb. Just now, he did not let Guimo out because he wanted to test the combat strength of the Lord of Heaven. He had just broken through to the 6th level of the Divine Master realm and his combat strength had increased greatly. He wanted to test the gap between him and a peak Divine Master. The facts proved that he still wasn't a match for an apex Divine Master, and there was still a big gap between them. When he was at the 5th level of the Divine Master realm, he could already contend against ordinary 9th level Divine Master experts. Combined with the War God Spear, origin energy, and Qiuqiu, he could kill ordinary 9th-level divine masters. Now that his cultivation had increased by 1 level, it was reasonable to say that he should be able to contend with an ordinary peak divine master. That was not the case. The gap between a peak divine master and a 9th-level divine master was huge, far greater than the gap between an 8th-level divine master and a 9th-level divine master. Therefore, after breaking through to the 6th layer of the divine master realm, his battle prowess had increased greatly. He could easily kill ordinary 9th-layer divine masters, but he was still no match for peak divine masters. Lu Ming, why your cultivation has already reached the 6th layer of the divine master realm. Just what sort of fortuitous encounter did you have? Yi Qiuxian roared, his eyes wide open. Previously, when he had clashed with Lu Ming's cultivation had only been at the 5th level of the Divine Lord realm. How long had it been? Lu Ming's cultivation had already skyrocketed to the 6th layer of the Divine Master realm. He knew that Lu Ming had the origin energy seed. As long as he had enough resources, his cultivation would increase very quickly. This meant that Lu Ming had obtained an astonishing fortuitous encounter in the past few days. This made him extremely displeased. Lu Ming had relied on the vast amount of resources from the Heavenly Palace to reach his current cultivation, while Lu Ming had relied entirely on himself and his own fortuitous encounters. The difference between the two was obvious. That's right. I've already broken through to the 6th layer of the Divine Master realm. Yi Qiuxian, we're now at the same level. If you're capable, let's fight. Lu Ming roared, pointing his war god spear at Yi Qiuxian and issuing a challenge. Yi Qiuxian's expression was extremely ugly. Previously, he had clashed with Lu Ming, so he knew very well that he was still no match for Lu Ming in a battle of the same level. If they were to really fight, the scene in the Taishang Immortal City would definitely repeat itself. Looks like you don't dare to fight. Yi Qiuxian, in the Taishang Immortal City, I still thought that you were the only person in the chaotic universe who could be my opponent. Now, it seems that I have misjudged you. You don't even dare to fight and only know how to rely on your cultivation advantage. You are not worthy of being my opponent. Lu Ming sneered, his voice filled with disdain. Lu Ming, Yi Qiuxian roared, his handsome face becoming somewhat sinister. Lu Ming's words had hit his sore spot. He wished that he could go up and fight Lu Ming, suppress Lu Ming with his own hands and make Lu Ming kneel before him. However, his rationality told him that he could not do it. If he did not fight, he would be humiliated. If he fought, he would probably be humiliated even more. Young Master Qiuxian, you don't have to take a dying man's words to heart. The gray-robed old man said. That's right. Why should I lower myself to the level of a dying man? Go, kill him for me. Yi Qiuxian roared. Lu Ming, although you managed to block one of my moves, I did not use my full strength just now. Now I will kill you in 3 moves. The gray-robed old man shouted coldly. He took a step forward and charged towards Lu Ming at an even faster speed than before. He was right. He did not use his full strength in the previous move. Right now, he was using his full strength. The sword light was faster than lightning as it slashed towards Lu Ming's forehead. This time, Lu Ming did not dodge, nor did he take action to counter the attack. After testing one move, Lu Ming had a rough idea of his own strength. There was no need for him to test it again. He would leave the rest to the Bone Demon. Just as the other party's attack was about to hit him, Lu Ming's glabella shone. The Bone Demon dashed out from Lu Ming's glabella and rapidly enlarged. Its palm was like a knife, slashing toward the other party and colliding with the other party's combat sword. With a loud clang, the Bone Demon's pitch-black palm bone collided with the old man's battle sword. However, the Bone Demon's palm was not damaged at all. Instead, the old man's main-grade battle sword was chipped. The Bone Demon's bones were obtained from the tiger-shaped ancient species. The ancient species' physical defense was shockingly strong. Its bones were incomparably tough. With the help of the Bone Demon's demonic chi, the old man could not break it at all. The old man's eyes widened and he was stunned. Kill! The Bone Demon's soul rippled as its 2 palms slashed out like demonic blades. Everything happened too suddenly. The other party did not expect that such a powerful skeleton would suddenly emerge from the area between Lu Ming's eyebrows. In addition, Gu Mo's attack was as fast as lightning, without the slightest hesitation. The sword light flashed and the gray-robed old man's head was split into two. His soul was completely destroyed. This was Lu Ming and the Bone Demon's plan. They wanted to kill one of the old men at lightning speed to weaken the old man's strength. As expected, everything went smoothly. Now, there were only 5 Lord of Heaven left on the old man's side. Everything happened too quickly. By the time Yi Qiuxian and the rest reacted, the gray-robed old man had already been killed. Damn it. He has helpers. Let's kill them together. Yi Qiuxian roared. Chapter 4684. Let's attack together. The remaining 5 Lord of Heaven roared as they charged towards Lu Ming and Gu Mo from 5 different directions. The combined might of the 5 Lord of Heaven was terrifying. Demonic bone puppets, come out! Gu Mo yelled. Immediately, 3 skeletons filled with demonic aura appeared. One of them was a snake-shaped skeleton, the other was a wolf-shaped skeleton, and the last one was a bear-shaped skeleton. These were the demonic bone puppets that Gu Mo had refined using the bones of the 3 surviving species of the untainted land. The 3 demonic bone puppets charged towards the 3 Lord of Heaven. Both parties clashed and an intense battle broke out. The 3 demonic bone puppets were very powerful. They fought against 1 Lord of Heaven each, and it was difficult to determine the outcome of the battle. Gu Mo, on the other hand, was fighting against 2 Lord of Heaven alone. Gu Mo was very powerful. Every part of his body was a deadly weapon. At the same time, his defense was also very strong. However, the 2 Lord of Heaven that Gu Mo was fighting were not easy to deal with either. This was because the 2 Lord of Heaven were both in control of source-level divine weapons. Source-level divine weapons were extremely sharp and indestructible. Although a peak divine master could not unleash the true power of a source-level divine weapon, it was still a big threat. Therefore, although Gu Mo was powerful, he was only able to fight the 2 Lord of Heaven to a draw. It was difficult to determine the outcome of the battle. The 5 Lord of Heaven were all blocked. Only Lu Ming and Yi Qiuxian were left at the scene. How is this possible? Yi Qiuxian's eyes widened in disbelief. Nothing is impossible. Yi Qiuxian, now that only the 2 of us are left, we can have a fair fight. Lu Ming said coldly. He held the war god's spear in his hand and exuded a strong fighting spirit. He took a few steps forward and quickly approached Yi Qiuxian. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. Yi Qiuxian shouted, and his glabella glowed brightly. The source-grade divine weapon flew out and landed in Yi Qiuxian's hands. His perfect heavenly energy erupted. 4 different kinds of heavenly energy gathered in the soul-grade divine weapon, and he slashed it at Lu Ming. The war god's spear vibrated and turned into a dazzling spear light that pierced toward Yi Qiuxian. Clang, clang, clang. Both of them were extremely fast. In an instant, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Spear chi and sword chi were overflowing. After dozens of moves, Yi Qiuxian staggered back. He was no match for Lu Ming and was at a slight disadvantage. Desolate style. Heaven-breaking style. Lu Ming executed 2 killer moves consecutively, not giving Yi Qiuxian any chance to catch his breath. Lu Ming did not ask Qiuqiu for help. He wanted to defeat Yi Qiuxian head-on. For ultimate heavenly sword formation, rise. Yi Qiuxian roared. With the soul-grade divine weapon as the core and the 4 master-grade divine weapons as support, he activated the sword formation and unleashed his perfect heavenly energy to the maximum. To be honest, Yi Qiuxian was really strong. He was almost invincible among those of the same level in the desolate universe. Especially after Yi Immortal's guidance, his combat strength was even stronger than when he was in Taishang Immortal City. However, Lu Ming was also stronger than when he was in Taishang Immortal City. As he continued to comprehend, the power of the Desolate style was also stronger than when he was in Taishang Immortal City. Using the Desolate style and Heaven-breaking style consecutively, Lu Ming gradually gained the upper hand in the battle. Bam! After dozens of moves, Yi Qiuxian was almost hit by the war god's spear. However, he was also hit by the aftershock of the war god's spear, and his body flew out. Then Yi Qiuxian turned around and ran into the distance. Yi Qiuxian, don't even think about leaving, Lu Ming shouted. He executed the greater extreme light art and chased after Yi Qiuxian. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were tens of thousands of miles away from this place. Clearly, Lu Ming's speed was faster. In just tens of thousands of miles, he caught up with Yi Qiuxian. With a palm strike, a continent was formed. It shrouded Yi Qiuxian's head and pressed down on him. Break! Yi Qiuxian shouted. He slashed out with his sword and split the continent in half. However, a spear light was already closing in on Yi Qiuxian. Yi Qiuxian could only stop and continue fighting with Lu Ming. However, after dozens of moves, Yi Qiuxian was still no match for Lin Fan. He kept retreating. Lu Ming died. Yi Qiuxian was completely enraged. He gathered all his strength into the Origin Grade Battle Sword, including the Origin Source energy in the Origin Source Seed. This was his strongest sword move. The sword light was like a waterfall. It cut through the void and slashed towards Lu Ming. Then let's use this move to decide the victor. Heaven breaking! Lu Ming shouted. He executed the heaven breaking style. His body turned into a spear light. He became one with the spear and stabbed towards Yi Qiuxian. Lu Ming also released his Origin Source energy in this move. Boom! The sword light and spear light collided in midair. It was like a rampaging explosion. It was scorching hot and dazzling. The sword chi and spear light that burst out from the collision cut open terrifying cracks in the void. However, the two of them were in a deadlock for only a few breaths. The sword light suddenly collapsed and the spear light expanded. It continued to stab towards Yi Qiuxian. Lu Ming emerged victorious in the clash of the two strongest moves. Lu Ming had obtained first place in the highest immortal city. He was in the first tier. Therefore, the Origin Source seed that he condensed was the largest and contained the most Origin Source energy. As for Yi Qiuxian, he was only in the second tier. The size of his Origin Source seed was about the same as Xian Yanqing's. Therefore, when Yi Qiuxian activated his Origin Source seed to release his strongest attack, he was defeated by Lu Ming. The War God's spear did not stop and stabbed towards Yi Qiuxian's forehead. However, at the instant the tip of the spear came into contact with Yi Qiuxian's forehead, countless runes emerged from Yi Qiuxian's forehead. Those runes weaved together to form a powerful defensive power that forcibly blocked the War God's spear. The strong impact sent Yi Qiuxian flying. Another life-saving treasure. This time, I'll break through your life-saving treasure. Lu Ming's body shot out like an aura. The War God's spear swept across and struck Yi Qiuxian's body. The last time Lu Ming and Yi Qiuxian clashed, Yi Qiuxian had exhausted too much of his energy and Lu Ming had turned the tables. At that time, it was this life-saving treasure that had protected Yi Qiuxian. However, Lu Ming remembered that this life-saving treasure had the strongest defensive force between the eyebrows. The body part was weaker. Therefore, he would attack from the weakest part of the body. Bam! The War God's spear struck Yi Qiuxian's body. There were still runes on his body that blocked the War God's spear. However, he was sent flying like a cannonball and smashed through a mountain. Lu Ming's attack did not stop. He turned into a ray of spear light and chased after Yi Qiuxian, piercing his chest. Boom! A violent explosion rang out. The defensive runes on Yi Qiuxian's body shook violently and were dented. They were almost pierced through. The strong impact seeped into the runes and struck Yi Qiuxian's body, causing him to cough up blood. Just a little more. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. His killing intent was cold as he erupted with power. The War God's spear vibrated and in an instant he stabbed out 108 times. The 108 rays of spear light all pierced Yi Qiuxian's chest. Crack! Bam! The defensive runes on Yi Qiuxian's body were finally broken. A strong force rushed in. Chapter 4685. The rune defense on Yi Qiuxian's body was torn apart by Lu Ming's spear and a powerful force gushed in. Bam! Half of Yi Qiuxian's body exploded. He screamed in agony as the remaining half of his body flew out. His eyes were filled with fear. Die! Lu Ming shouted coldly. His attacks did not stop as he continued to charge towards Yi Qiuxian. The War God's spear enlarged and swept out. Yi Qiuxian was only severely injured. Such injuries were far from enough to take his life. Only by destroying his soul could Yi Qiuxian be truly killed. Yi Qiuxian's rune defense had been breached. The rune defense on his head was no longer strong. Lu Ming was confident that he could break it in less than 2 moves. Bam! The huge war god spear struck Yi Qiuxian's head. The rune defense on Yi Qiuxian's head vibrated violently and was almost broken. The powerful force sent Yi Qiuxian flying like a rubber ball, crashing into a mountain peak. Lu Ming leaped and caught up with Yi Qiuxian, launching the next wave of attacks. No, 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 Yi Qiuxian screamed in his heart. His eyes were filled with fear. If this continued, it would take at most 2 moves. No, it might only take 1 move for his rune defense to be completely broken. Once his rune defense was broken, he would be dead. However, at this moment, Lu Ming was suddenly on the alert. He felt a strong sense of crisis descending. Lu Ming could not be bothered to continue attacking Yi Qiuxian. Without hesitation, he brought the war god's spear with him and turned in a half-circle, sweeping it diagonally upwards. At this moment, a ray of sword light slashed towards Lu Ming and collided with the war god's spear. Clang! A loud explosion rang out. Lu Ming's body involuntarily drifted back tens of thousands of meters. The power of this ray of sword light was extremely shocking. Then, Lu Ming saw 2 figures flashing and charging towards Yi Qiuxian. They were the 2 Lord of Heaven of the heavenly human tribe. However, these 2 Lord of Heaven were covered in blood and had suffered injuries of varying degrees. Their faces were pale and their auras were somewhat weak. Clearly, they were all heavily injured. The one who had launched a sneak attack on Lu Ming was a Lord of Heaven wielding a sword. At this moment, the 2 of them arrived before Yi Qiuxian. The sword-wielding Lord of Heaven grabbed Yi Qiuxian and rushed away. That direction was the direction of the crack they had entered from. "Where do you think you're going?" Lu Ming shouted and chased after him with all his might. Although the other side had 2 Lord of Heaven, they were obviously injured and not at their peak state. It seemed that Bone Devil had obtained an absolute advantage. Now, all he had to do was stall the other party and wait for the Bone Demon to arrive, then he could kill the other party. Most importantly, this was a rare opportunity. Lu Ming did not want to let Yi Qiuxian go. Although Yi Qiuxian lacked courage, it was undeniable that his talent was too high. In terms of talent, almost no one in the younger generation of the universe could compare to him. In the future, he would definitely become a big shot in the Heavenly Palace. This would be very disadvantageous for the Heaven Destroyer. If he could get rid of him, he would do his best to do so. If he missed this opportunity, it would be difficult to get rid of him in the future. Lu Ming raised his speed to the maximum. He turned into an aurora and chased after the 2 Lord of Heaven. As expected, the 2 Lord of Heaven were not at their peak state. Their speed was not as fast as when they were at their peak, especially the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven. He was more heavily injured and his speed was slower. Even though the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven was carrying Yi Qiuxian, he was still faster than him. The distance between Lu Ming and the other party was slowly closing. "Take Qiuxian and leave first. I'll go kill that brat," the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven shouted. He suddenly turned around and flew towards Lu Ming. As for the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven, he continued to flee with Yi Qiuxian. Swoosh! The sword-wielding Lord of Heaven rushed towards Lu Ming. He slashed his saber at Lu Ming. The saber light was thousands of miles long. Lu Ming swung his spear to meet the attack. The war god's spear struck the saber light and exploded. Then, the saber light dissipated. Lu Ming took a deep breath and trembled slightly. "Looks like the other party is seriously injured." Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Lu Ming would definitely not be able to stop the Lord of Heaven in his peak state. But now he could. "Kill!" the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven shouted. He became one with his saber and turned into a dazzling saber light. He cut through the void and slashed towards Lu Ming, wanting to kill Lu Ming. The reason why he stayed behind to stop Lu Ming was to let the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven leave with Yi Qiuxian. Also, he wanted to take the opportunity to kill Lu Ming. Just like the reason why Lu Ming wanted to kill Yi Qiuxian, in the eyes of the heavenly human race, Lu Ming was also a huge threat that had to be eliminated. Heaven Splitter! Lu Ming shouted and performed the heaven splitter. He became one with his spear and turned into a dazzling spear light that pierced towards the other party. The spear and the saber were incomparably dazzling. They cut through the void and collided in the air, erupting with dazzling light. Rings of shockwaves spread out in all directions like ripples. Then, the two figures drifted back at the same time. They were evenly matched. Then, the two rushed towards each other and fought. After all, the other party was the Lord of Heaven. Even if his combat strength was not at his peak state, he was still extremely powerful and was not weaker than Lu Ming. In an instant, the two of them exchanged more than 10 moves. Ball, Lu Ming's heart stirred. Ball flew out and turned into a mirror. It shot out a beam of light that enveloped the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven. The sword-wielding Lord of Heaven was stunned for a moment. However, in just an instant, the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven roared and a terrifying force burst out from his body, forcibly shattering Ball's beam of light. Burn the supreme power of heaven. Lu Ming furrowed his brows and retreated rapidly. The other party had already started burning the supreme power of heaven without caring about the consequences. By burning the supreme power of heaven, the other party's battle prowess would probably reach his peak for a short period of time. As a result, Lu Ming retreated while Ball flew back to Lu Ming's body. It rapidly squirmed and turned into a suit of armor that enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming died. The sword-wielding Lord of Heaven roared and charged at Lu Ming, swinging his sword wildly. The consequences of burning the supreme power of heaven were extremely severe. It was very likely that he would never be able to reach reciprocity again, cutting off all hope of advancing in the future. As a result, he paid such a great price to kill Lu Ming. The blade flashed as fast as lightning. Lu Ming could only use his spear to block. Clang, clang. The two of them constantly clashed, clashing over 100 times in an instant. In the end, Lu Ming was still not his opponent. He retreated and was struck twice by the other party. Fortunately, Ball's armor blocked the two strikes. It's still not at the peak. I can hold him back. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He discovered that even after burning the supreme power of heaven, the other party's battle prowess did not seem to reach his peak. Lu Ming understood very soon. One reason was that the other party was injured. The other reason was origin energy. Before the other party had fled, it was very clear that the origin energy in the origin seed had been used up. When fighting Lu Ming, the other party had not used any origin energy at all. Chapter 4686. Therefore, even though the blade-wielding Lord of Heaven had burned his ultimate power of heaven, he was still not as strong as origin energy. He was still a hair away from the peak. As for Lu Ming, he was now a 6th-level Divine Master, no longer a 5th-level Divine Master. With Qiu's help, Lu Ming was confident that he could keep his opponent occupied. As long as Bone Demon arrived, his opponent would die. Heaven-crushing form, desolate form, kill. Lu Ming's confidence was greatly boosted. He roared to the sky, his black hair flying as he continuously used the two self-created secret techniques in succession, bombarding his opponent. Although Lu Ming was still at a disadvantage, he ignored defense and attacked with all his might. He was really evenly matched with his opponent. Soon, the two had exchanged over 100 blows. At this moment, two streaks of light appeared in the distance. The two streaks of light collided in the air several times, erupting with violent booms. Bone Demon is here. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. One of the two streaks of light was Bone Demon. The other streak of light was a Lord of Heaven. This Lord of Heaven was extremely powerful. He held a spear in his hand. That spear was an origin-grade divine weapon. Of the 8 Lord of Heaven beside Yi Qiuxian, 2 of them wielded origin-grade divine weapons. One of them was the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven who had fled with Yi Qiuxian. The other one was the Heaven Monarch who used a long spear. However, this Lord of Heaven was clearly heavily injured. There was a large hole in his chest that went straight through. Even his heart had exploded. His combat strength was not at its peak and was no match for Bone Demon. This person was fighting as he ran. However, after several collisions, this Lord of Heaven's body smashed into the ground like a meteor, creating a deep pit. Swish! The bone devil looked down from above and dived into the deep pit. Rumble! The ground rumbled violently, and crushed stones flew everywhere. The next moment, the bone demon's figure charged into the sky from the deep pit. He was a skeleton, and his pitch-black bones were stained with fresh blood. He held a golden battle spear in his hand. The battle spear was stained with blood, looking demonic and horrifying. Needless to say, the Lord of Heaven was most likely dead. Otherwise, how could the battle spear have fallen into the bone devil's hands? The bone demon's gaze landed on Lu Ming and the blade-wielding Lord of Heaven. Then, like a streak of light, it rushed towards the blade-wielding Lord of Heaven. The blade-wielding Lord of Heaven revealed a look of despair in his eyes. "Lu Ming, let's die together," the knife-wielding Lord of Heaven roared. His face was incomparably ferocious. A terrifying aura burst out from his body, like a volcano about to erupt. Self-detonation. Lu Ming was shocked. He retreated quickly, and at the same time he blasted out a palm. A continent appeared and was about to envelop the opponent. However, the opponent slashed out with his blade, splitting the continent in half, and continued to rush towards Lu Ming. You want to self-detonate? You have to ask me first, the bone demon snorted. Demonic chi surged from his body, and he suddenly threw out the golden battle spear in his hand. The golden battle spear flew towards the blade-wielding Lord of Heaven like a bolt of lightning. Fast, it was really too fast. It took almost an instant, which was beyond anyone's reaction time, to appear in front of the blade-wielding Heaven Monarch. The blade-wielding Lord of Heaven was shocked and hurriedly raised his blade to block. With a clang, the golden battle spear pierced the opponent's battle blade, and sparks flew everywhere. The bone demon's attack was too powerful. He had used all of his strength. In addition, the golden battle spear was a source-level divine weapon, so it was incomparably sharp. The opponent's battle blade was only a supreme-level divine weapon. After the collision, dense cracks appeared on the blade. Finally, with a bang, the battle blade shattered. The battle spear did not stop there. It pierced through the Lord of Heaven's protective energy and pierced through his chest, nailing the blade-wielding Lord of Heaven to the ground. However, the opponent was not dead yet. He roared and wanted to self-detonate. Swoosh! The war god spear in Lu Ming's hand flew out and pierced the blade-wielding Lord of Heaven's forehead, killing him completely. At this moment, the bone demon landed and grabbed the golden battle spear in his hand. Not bad. I'll keep it for now. The bone demon smiled and kept the golden battle spear. Lu Ming walked over and pulled out the war god spear. Bone demon, where are the other Lord of Heaven? Lu Ming asked. I killed them. It's a pity that the 3 devil bone puppets were useless. They all fell apart. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to escape. Where's Yiqiuxian? The bone demon asked. He was rescued by the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven. Let's chase after him, Lu Ming said. The bone demon nodded. Together with Lu Ming, they turned into 2 streaks of light and chased after the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven and Yiqiuxian. It was obvious that the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven was trying to escape through the crack with Yiqiuxian. Lu Ming and the bone demon flew in that direction. Unfortunately, they did not find any trace of Yiqiuxian or the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven. Obviously, the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven had delayed them for a while and allowed them to escape too far away. Lu Ming and the bone demon were already flying at full speed, but they still could not catch up. After some time, they arrived at the crack where they had first entered. They still could not catch up with Yiqiuxian and the sword-wielding Lord of Heaven. What a pity, Lu Ming sighed softly. It was such a good opportunity, but they still could not kill Yiqiuxian. It would be difficult to find such a good opportunity in the future. This Yiqiuxian was obviously a person with great luck. He was always able to turn misfortunes into blessings. Lu Ming, I'd better hide in the Chaos Ring. I've just smelted the devil bone and need time to consolidate it. If there's anything, just call me. The bone demon said. All right. Lu Ming nodded and kept the bone demon in the Chaos Ring. Speaking of which, this trip of being hunted by the heavenly human tribe could be considered a blessing in disguise. His cultivation had increased by 1 level and reached the 6th level Divine Master realm. He had also obtained a few hundred stalks of main grade divine herbs and a stalk of origin grade divine herb. In addition, the Bone Demon had finally recovered some of his cultivation and reached the peak of the Divine Master realm. He could deal with several Lord of Heaven at the same time. This greatly boosted Lu Ming's confidence. If he encountered another expert at the level of the Lord of Heaven, he could just release the Bone Demon. They left the crack and returned to the continent above. I wonder how Lion and the others are doing? Lu Ming was a little worried. Lion and the others had been besieged by 8 Lord of Heaven led by Yi Qiuxian. He did not know how they were doing. However, because the purple-clad Lord of Heaven had been lured away by Lu Ming, there were only 7 Lord of Heaven left. Lion and the others should be able to escape successfully. They should be heading towards the depths of the continent. I've wasted a lot of time. I have to hurry over and meet up with them. Lu Ming pondered and then rushed along the ground toward the depths of the continent. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. There's someone over there. Suddenly, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he sensed a living being approaching from the right. Lu Ming used the great concealment technique and hid behind a rock to observe carefully. Not long after, 7 figures appeared nearby. It's Lion and the others. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He did not expect to meet Lion and the others here.